Hi, welcome to Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. I'm Julie Kay. It is 12:30 and we'll be here for the next 3.5 hours, bringing you all the local and national headlines that you need to know. We want to start close to home, though, in South Carolina. We've got some news out of there. The Department of Public Health has added 2 new measles cases. They just announced this in the last 30 minutes or so. This is really important, of course, because this is a story we've been following for weeks. They've even been having, I believe, Carlene, like weekly press conferences on just the...
Sometimes multiple times a week, yes.
Yeah, this has been really a problem there. This now brings the total number of cases this year to 25. 22 of them are active. Now, both of these cases, I'm reading from the press release, were linked to close contacts of known cases who have been quarantining at home. So that successful early quarantining as a result of the identified exposure is a positive public health outcome that shows how rapid containment efforts and quarantining, if exposed, is highly effective. Again, that is from the Department of Public Health in South Carolina. So they are encouraging people, of course, to get their vaccines. That can be done for no cost at all. And they have listed all of those, which I believe we're going to have on our website as well, for places where you can receive those vaccines. So definitely a story we'll be following. If they come out with another news conference, we will, of course, bring that to you live when we hear word of it, but no word so far. Speaking of live, though, this is happening right now. Sean Duffy, he is the Department of Transportation, the head of the Secretary of the Department of Transportation. He is speaking on impacts potentially of the government shutdown on air traffic control. Anyone who's got flights coming up, of course, here in Charlotte with Charlotte Douglas International, this is a big story. So we're going to see what he has to say.
short in the system. And I have developed a plan to supercharge air traffic controllers, get more of them into the system. It's going to take, a couple years.
For assistance, please visit a ground transportation counter located in each of the baggage claim areas. We want you to be safe.
We do want you to be safe, and the PA system does work at the airport. But we're supercharging air traffic controllers, bringing the best and the brightest, per the direction of President Trump, into this great profession. It takes time to do that. The academy takes time. Then once they're out in one of the facilities, it takes anywhere from 1, 2, sometimes 3 years to get trained up. And so we're getting word back right now from our academy in Oklahoma City that some of our young controllers in the academy, and some who have been given spots in the next class of the academy, are bailing. They're walking away. They're asking themselves, why do I want to go into a profession where I could work hard and have the potential of not being paid for my services? And so we're seeing that real consequence right now. That affects my ability to continue this surge and get more people, more young, well-trained controllers into our system. And so I want to lay out what's happening, make sure America knows what the consequences are for a foolish shutdown on behalf of illegals, because it has impacts on the traveling public's life as they see more delays in the system. I find that to be unacceptable. I have more value for our controllers that I think we're seeing from the Congress. And again, I would ask our controllers to show up for work, and I would ask Democrats in the Senate to have a vote, open up the government, and then sit down and have a conversation and negotiate. And with that, I'm going to turn over to the chair of NACA, Nick Daniels, who is, again, we don't agree on everything, but we've been good partners just in the sense of trying to take care of the controllers who work so hard on our airspace. So, Nick Daniels.
So, good afternoon. I am Nick Daniels. I'm the proud president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. America's air traffic controllers, we didn't ask to be the focus of this shutdown. Yet, every day, we're carrying the full weight. Every single day, we move over 45,000 aircraft, 3 million passengers. We move tons of cargo that keeps America running, protecting the national airspace system, and even more importantly, people's lives. They're showing up every single day under immense stress, under uncertainty, having to stay focused on performing the day in and day out tasks. And every day that this shutdown drags on with no clear end sight, this affects their focus. And our job as air traffic controllers is to mitigate risk, and it's also to call it out. Air traffic controllers, our job is to communicate for the safety of the flying public. And as this shutdown continues and air traffic controllers are not paid for the vital work that they do day in and day out, that leads to an unnecessary distraction. And they cannot be 100% focused on their jobs, which makes this system less safe every day that this shutdown continues. Tomorrow will be less safe than today. And as the Secretary said, now we have to figure out how to mitigate that to ensure the safety of every passenger and every plane that flies in our skies. There is no version of this scenario that we have been forced into where an American worker can work 6 days a week, 10 hours in a day, only have 4 days off in a month, and have to deal with their greatest priority, which is taking care of their family, to provide for them, to put gas in a car, to put food on a table, to ensure their kids have shelter, or that they have a level of care while they do go and do the very important job of being an air traffic controller and running America's skies. And the calls have already begun. Air traffic controllers have called and said, I've picked up a side job. I go to my primary job on a day, an evening, or a midnight shift. And when I complete that shift, I now go to a secondary job. I'm driving for Uber. I'm doing DoorDash. I'm doing Instacart. This job is hard enough 5 days a week. We do it 6. We make the impossible look possible every single day. But now, with this shutdown, we're making the impossible impossible for people to continue to live without money. So some of our lowest paid air traffic controllers in this system, whether they're new or they live paycheck to paycheck just like every other American worker, they will instead be focusing instead of focusing on the safety of the American flying public, they're now focusing on what they can't afford to pay. So as each day passes with this shutdown, more of this nation's air traffic controllers will feel more stress. They'll feel more pressure. And it's the opposite of what they should be focused on. We should be focused on how do we move forward, the cusp of taking care of one another. So air traffic controllers, we didn't start a shutdown. We don't end a shutdown. Our elected officials do. And our message is simple. End the shutdown today.
So we'll take questions in a moment, but just when I was talking to the guys in the break room, they were eating in the break room, and they made sure I knew that the food that they were eating had come from the airlines. The airlines know how important air traffic control is to keeping the sky safe and airplanes moving. And so our airlines, who know the financial pressure that our controllers are under and the gratitude for them showing up, they're buying them food. We shouldn't rely on airlines to have to buy lunch and dinner for our controllers because they can't afford it themselves because the Democrats have shut down the government. But those are the things that are happening inside of all of us who work in the airspace, supporting our fellow brothers and sisters who are going through a time of need. And I want to thank the airlines for recognizing that and supporting and being helpful in the small ways that they can. Again, just providing food for our controllers when they're on the job. With that, if you guys have any questions for us, happy to take them, yes.
Could you give us an update as to the number of delays that have been a direct result of air traffic?
So the question is, how many delays have been in relationship to air traffic controller shortages? And so it's different every day. So the average on a day is about 5% of our delays would come from staffing shortages with air traffic controllers. We've gone up as high as 53% of the delays have been because of staffing shortages. And that number moves every single day. Because as I mentioned before, we don't have one facility that's a problem every single day. It might be short one day, but then, it might be Chicago one day, it might be Atlanta another, it might be Newark a different day. And so it changes day by day. And so it's anywhere between that 5%, we've always been above the 5% in the shutdown, but as high as 53% of delays are from the staffing shortages. Yes?
Do you have a sense of how many of these traffic controllers are calling out because of protests or because they have to do things like drive DoorDash or do other things to supplement their income?
I don't have insight into the hearts and minds of the controllers who are calling out sick, but if I listen to the controllers who talk to me, they'll tell me about their own stresses, financial, and how they have to take a second job, how they're frustrated that they're not going to get paid, and some of them might be sick. But I'm working close with Nick. We're driving a message. I want you to show up. I don't want to see Democrat shutdowns drive pain to the American people. I've asked them, please come to work, and I'm grateful for you to come to work. But maybe that'll be a post-mortem we can do on what happened there and why controllers made the choices that they did.
Mr. Secretary, can I ask a question about your engagement with Pennsylvania over SEPTA? There was great concern in a letter released yesterday by your agency. Tell us the concern you about not only the management of the operations of the system, but the finances that you've raised as well.
Yeah, so this is a Philly issue. I am concerned about SEPTA. When you have a system that's $200 million in the hole, we see delays, but do we see fires? That's a huge problem, right? On trains and on buses. And what's more concerning is that when you have a fire, we all know what a fire is, but the management will say it is a thermal event. What the hell is a thermal event? It's called a fire. So let's not try to massage what's happening. I've had good interactions with the governor. I've asked the governor to step up and lead, to fix the system, to provide the leadership and the money and the resources and the management to make sure that this system is fully operational and safe for the traveling public. You can't get on a train or a bus and have a fire. That is a flashing light and a siren that significant changes need to be made.
Mr. Secretary.
To piggyback off that question, you know, there have been emergency inspections, there's a deadline by Halloween next Friday, and we're behind right now. What happens if young kids just get these emergency inspections?
So I'm not going to front run what happens next, but again, I don't want to talk about consequences. I want to talk about action. I want trains to be safe and to run on time. That's what I want. And if those emergency inspections don't pass, we'll talk about what comes next.
Can you expand on deploying teams to Philadelphia to manage something? What is the game plan there?
So we don't manage your rail. We support. We provide assistance. But Philadelphia leadership, the state leadership has to step in. And by the way, the city works well because you have a system that can move people effectively and efficiently through the community. That's really important. And to make sure it's fully operational and well run is important to us. And we provide oversight. We provide tools. We also provide money. And so again, what I want to see is the state and the city work together with us to have a plan to fix this system, and that takes engagement, that takes leadership. And so I hope to see that from the city and the governor. And if they're willing to do that, we're going to work with them. Because what I want is, I want a great system for Philadelphia. I mean, that's what I want. And if I can be helpful, I will. If I get resistance, we can be great friends or we can be really bad enemies. I think we should be in the friend business and serve in this community.
Mr. Secretary, Justin Ito from KYW News Radio. You spoke very eloquently earlier about members of Congress and the Senate still getting their paychecks during this time. Are you still getting yours during this time? And if so, do you plan on stopping to stand in solidarity with workers like the workers that aren't being paid now?
Well, so it's a good point. Our workers are going to work. We have furloughed employees that don't come to work, but we have essential services that are provided by people like our air traffic controllers. Those who are working on our modernization effort for air traffic control, it's those people who we've asked to come in and continue that work, because my concern is if there are delays that happen because of this shutdown, 6 months from now, no one remembers that we have delays because of a shutdown. They just think I'm delayed. Right? We're not moving on the right timeline. So I've asked those critical talent to come in and help us move the ball forward, whether it's air traffic controllers or it's within the FAA, to continue the progress in how we're going to have, in a 3-year time period, build a brand new air traffic control system. I can't give up 24 days. I can't give up a month. I don't know how long this is going to go. It could be a month and a half. I can't give that time up. And so,
with your pay, are you still being paid? If so, do you plan on stopping your pay during this time to stand in solidarity with workers?
I would have no problem stopping my pay. By the way, I don't even know if I get paid or not. In Congress, we did, and that was a huge problem. And we dealt with that because first of all, the concept of saying if you're part of government, and especially the Congress, especially the Democrats who aren't funding the government, I never thought it was appropriate that you get paid while the rest of the government does not. Now, if there's back pay, like air traffic controllers, they show up for work, they're going to get paid one day. Those members of Congress, they show up every day, they're going to get paid, but they should be delayed just like everybody else.
So you're saying you will take the delay in your pay?
Yeah, I would have no problem doing that, yes.
How concerned are you, Dave Sherman, how concerned are you about funding running out for the academy, for training in the towers, and how much do you think we're going to see a big increase in staff outages as that first paycheck gets missed? Has there been any evidence so far that controllers have engaged in improper sick outs today?
So just back to the academy, we're working on the numbers right now. So we pay our students in the academy. They get paid to go to the 4-month school. They're not paid a lot, but they're paid so they can buy food and get to the academy. We help them with their housing. We're about a week to 2 weeks away from running out of money to pay those students, which will be cataclysmic for them. Our instructors already are not paid and they're still showing up to teach. But again, the disruption that this causes, I've already seen young people drop out of the academy because they're concerned about going into a business where they may not get their funding. And so it's my job to let everyone know these are the consequences of the shutdown. And by the way, what's not partisan is the fact that we need a new system. It's not partisan that we need more controllers. So we're going to continue that work, but it's important to tell everybody this is the hardship that we're under right now because of the shutdown, and it will not be consequence-free in regard to the pipeline that I have in bringing controllers in.
There's a lot of concern this weekend. We could start to see really serious disruptions. Obviously, yesterday was 6.6%, but are you concerned as we get to that first paycheck that this could be?
So I think it's a great question. I can't project what's going to happen with our air traffic controllers. I have told them to show up for work, to do their jobs. Nick has told them to show up for work and do their jobs. But I've also heard about the hardship on finding a second job when they already work, many of them 6 days a week as air traffic controllers. I've heard about gas. I've heard about childcare. I've heard about mortgages. I mean, we all look at each other and say, who can go without pay? How does that happen and work for them? And no doubt that puts pressure on their lives, their families. And so I hope that's not the case. I don't want to see any pressure applied to this shutdown because of air traffic controllers. But I can't predict the future. I know they're frustrated. I know they're angry. And I know they want their Congress to think about them and not illegals. I can take one more question. Did anyone else know? You can go again. Have awarded what? So just looking at kind of how the DOT functions, a lot of the money for the projects that we fund, that money is pre-funded. So when you have a shutdown, I already have the money in the door that's allowing me to continue with projects. Now, one of the issues is if I have staffing problems, that can impact my ability to get money out the door. And so it's not that the money's not there, it's that I don't have the staff in place because they've been furloughed to actually execute the agreements or do the oversight that's necessary by federal law for these projects. And so that can be an issue, but much of this has been pre-funded. Just on our air traffic control modernization, we got $12.5 billion in the big, beautiful bill. I need $31.5 in total, but we got a lot of that money up front, which is why we're able to continue to push forward in the modernization effort to make sure we have a brand new air traffic control system in this country. With that, everyone, I want to thank you for coming out. I appreciate you covering the great men and women who keep your skies safe. They keep your planes on time. They do yeoman's work, and so thank you for covering them. And I want to thank also our controllers one last time for their great work. We're grateful for that at DOT, at FAA, and I know America is as well. Thank you.
All right, you've been listening in to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy answering questions in Philadelphia about the impacts of the government shutdown on airplane travel, on air traffic control, and that is definitely something that we are paying attention to, of course, here in Charlotte with Charlotte Douglas International Airport, because that is a major hub. We're on day 24 now of the government shutdown. This is one of many, many impacts, and more to get to after this break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. I'm Julie Kay. We're going to get out to another scene. This is out of Chicago, where we are looking at multiple officials here, including the mayor, discussing immigration. This has been a big story. If you've been here with us for the past few Fridays, you've seen multiple protests outside of that Broadview ICE detention facility. And so this is an ongoing story that we're going to listen into.
Representative Sean Casten, the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is with us, Adriano Espaillat from New York, Representative Bill Foster from Illinois, Representative Sylvia Garcia from Texas, Representative Jonathan Jackson from Illinois, Representative Raja Krishnamurthy from Illinois, Representative Mike Quigley from Illinois, Representative Jan Schakowsky from Illinois, and Representative Rashida Tlaib from Michigan. Thank you all so much for making the time to be with us today. Now let me recognize Representative Chuy Garcia, who has played a leading role and serves on the Immigration Subcommittee with me.
Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal, for coming to Chicago and being such a strong defender of immigrants' rights and for pursuing good policy in the field of immigration for the future, for the present and future of America. I am most grateful to the members who have come to Chicago, 19 strong, coast to coast, LA to Chicago, New York, from Texas to the border with Canada. We are here because we care, and as they have arrived in Chicago, they have learned that Chicago is the country's oldest immigrant-friendly sanctuary city, proclaimed by Harold Washington via executive order, later codified and held strong by Mayor Brandon Johnson. President Tony Preckwinkle, instrumental in helping me pass the nation's first ICE detainer ordinance that said, if you don't have probable cause and you don't have a warrant, we will not honor any of your detainers. Because in America, due process is what matters. It mattered in 2011, Madam President, and it continues to matter more than ever in these days. We've heard the stories of real people affected by the atrocious policies of this administration. And as you saw 2 days ago in my neighborhood of 57 years in Little Village, and then again yesterday, we saw a little man lead an attack on a hardworking, studious, industrious community as he sprayed tear gas on people in our community. We reject these practices. We say no warrants, no due process, no names or faces, just terror. That's why Chicago, Cook County, and the state of Illinois remain strong, holding it firm and showing America that immigrants are good for our country. They are the past, present, and the future, and we stand with each and every one of them. Muy buenos días. Me agrada que nos acompañen 19 miembros de los demócratas en el Congreso de los Estados Unidos, demostrando el apoyo de costa a costa, de Texas a la frontera con Canadá. Somos fuertes, repudiamos las políticas de esta administración, seguimos firmes y vamos a prevalecer porque el derecho y el moral está de nuestro lado. Muchas gracias.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Representative Garcia. Now let me introduce Representative Delia Ramirez, who has also been absolutely instrumental in holding this administration accountable on so many issues, including immigration.
I want to start by asking all of you to help me think an unapologetic truth teller, an immigrant herself, who every single day shows up fully herself fighting for our communities, and that's our ranking member, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. Thank you for convening this delegation here in Chicago and the shadow hearing. I'm really grateful for your leadership and your mentorship, especially as I navigate the halls of Congress. Today, colleagues of mine from all over the country heard from our community on the ground what we're experiencing, what we're living, the violent attacks by this invasion created by Donald Trump and Kristi Noem. rapid responders, a few of them who came to listen, left halfway through the hearing because, again, our communities are under attack. At least 4 people in my district disappeared in the last hour and a half. This is happening all over the city, the northwest suburbs, and frankly, the entire state. It was so important for my colleagues to hear directly from the people themselves on the ground. Not from the politicians, although we love our politicians. And I got to give a big shout out to 2 leaders here with incredible moral clarity, President Tony Preckwinkle and our Mayor Brandon Johnson, because you understand the assignment. You show up and you lead courageously every single day, and we're grateful for that. But I want to end in saying this, Chicago is not broken. Chicago will never be broken. And we will do everything in our power collectively with this delegation and with the leaders here today, with every elected, but more importantly, led by the grassroots people that don't need titles to do the work. They're just showing up with a whistle, with a phone, and a commitment to keep each other safe. May my colleagues take this conviction back as we remind those in leadership in Congress that it is our moral responsibility to defend our communities. And when they fail to do so, the community will rise and show up as they always have. I am committed to ensuring that every committee hearing, every opportunity, and in every place, we uplift the work in Chicago, and we do the work once we're in the majority so that we never arrive here again. Just 2 seconds in Spanish. Quiero agradecerle a la delegación que vino de todo el país, bajo el liderazgo de nuestra congresista aquí, Pramila Jayapal, el liderazgo también de otros que están aquí, como el congresista Adriano Espaillat, que es el líder del caucus latino en el Congreso, y también Pete Aguilar, que es el latino con más liderazgo también en el Congreso. Queremos recordar que lo que estamos viendo aquí en Chicago no es normal, pero es la responsabilidad de cada uno de nosotros para defender nuestras comunidades. No nos quebrarán, no nos han quebrado, y es la gente que está haciendo ese trabajo en este momento, literalmente en este momento, defendiendo nuestra comunidad, que nos va a mostrar cómo salimos adelante. Así que no están solos, a trabajar y a pelear por nuestra comunidad, porque nos organizamos. Gracias.
Gracias. Thank you so
You've
much,
been listening
Representative.
into that press conference there with leaders in Chicago, including the mayor, about concerns about ICE in the city. That has been an ongoing thing that we've been discussing here on Life and Back News, as pretty much every Friday for the last few weeks there have been protesters outside of that Broadview detention facility, which is right outside Chicago. We're going to take a quick break. It is just 1 o'clock here. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. We want to get out to some really heartbreaking news out of Concord. One person has died and 3 others were injured after an RV fire, park fire this morning. It spread to multiple homes, and that's where we find our Walker Lawson right at the scene there. You can just see the devastation behind him. So Walker, what do we know so far?
Yeah, well, as you said, we do know that one person was killed. Now, we do not know the identity of that person that was killed. We also know that there were several dogs inside of this RV that burned down as well that did not survive. And as you mentioned, a few people were injured again because of just the sheer magnitude of this fire. I'm going to step out of the way and let you see. This RV is completely charred in the center of it. Of course, the front of the RV still somewhat remains intact. The back of it also remains somewhat intact as well, but there are actually several other RVs from neighbors here that are also burned as well. And we actually spoke to some residents that were out here earlier this morning that saw the fire take place. So the fire took place late last night. It happened around a little after midnight. The first dispatch team arrived here around 12:50 in the morning, but neighbors we spoke to said they heard a loud explosion from their RV. One of them raced outside to see what was happening and said that the fire grew so fast that just from moments of seeing a fire to running inside and changing into their clothes or trying to grab their family to get out, that the entire RV was engulfed in flames. And you had ashes falling from the sky. They said that the heat from the fire was so hot that they had called 911 and then they had to run away from this scene just because of how hot it was. And also the fear, these RVs are within pretty close proximity to one another, so they're not far apart. Obviously, that's why you have 2 that were damaged, but they're close, and they also have a lot of propane tanks that are out here. So one of the ladies that we spoke to said she was very concerned that if one of those tanks caught on fire, that this was going to be worse than it already was.
I mean, that scene behind you is just so awful. We don't always get close enough that you can see the aftermath of something like this. And I know because of how big this was, it was multiple agencies who responded to this. What, if anything, are officials saying at this point about investigating the cause?
Yeah, so we've reached out to Concord Fire to request an interview to try to get some more information. We haven't received a response yet on that, so still working to get answers here. The investigation does remain open per our last update. Again, I think around 40 plus firefighters responded out to the scene last night. Residents here said that the fire was put out pretty quickly.
All right, Walker, thank you so much. I know that we're going to see you back here, I believe, at 4:30 or 4 and 5:30, and so we'll have more updates from you then. Thank you. All right, we're going to turn now to some more news out of Chicago. We're going to go back to that press conference where officials are doing an update on that, the updates from the federal government on ICE in the city. This has been an ongoing situation over the last few weeks. Multiple Fridays we've had protests, and this is now an update from officials.
Day to stand up for every resident, to ensure that every resident feels safe, respected, and valued. Now it's my pleasure to bring to the podium Representative Danny Davis. Is he still with us?
Yeah.
There he is.
Well, I am. Thank you very much, and let me first of all just thank Representative Joe Paul for bringing 19 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, all Democrats, to Chicago. And so I'm pleased to stand here with the mayor of my city, with the president of my Cook County board, and reaffirm that Chicago is a fight-back city, that under no circumstances will we stand and allow the illegal disrespect and disruption of our citizens. We recognize that immigrants have rights that should be protected, rights that should be respected each and every time, each and everywhere. That's right. Dr. King was known for saying that if you have injustice anywhere, It is a threat to justice everywhere. We don't intend for injustice to occur in Illinois, nor in the United States of America. So I thank my colleagues for helping us highlight what has taken place in Chicago so that we can make sure that it does not continue and does not take place in other cities throughout America. Thank you all again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Representative Davis. Now let me bring up to the podium House Democratic Caucus Chair, Representative Pete Aguilar from California.
Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal and Mayor Johnson and commissioners and President Preckwinkle and my colleagues as well. Democrats are laser focused on ensuring everyone in our communities feels safe and secure from crime. But Donald Trump and his Republican henchmen, time and time again, have been more focused on demonizing the entire immigrant community rather than working on bipartisan solutions to improve public safety. From day one, we saw how unserious Donald Trump was when he pardoned 1,500 January 6th rioters from prison, many of whom were violent criminals, pedophiles, and domestic abusers. One of those charged even committed this week, threatened the life of Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. This shows the Trump administration's backwards priorities, pardoning violent criminals and going after people whose only crime is that they may be undocumented. Instead of targeting criminals, President Trump is unleashing agents across this country and disappearing people off the streets without due process. In many cases, detaining U.S. citizens and law-abiding immigrants with no criminal history. In my community of San Bernardino, California, a masked immigration agent opened fire on an unarmed vehicle in the middle of a residential neighborhood. The person was so scared for their life, they called the local police department to ask for help. This failed approach to so-called immigration enforcement is not only wrong, but it's un-American. And it's dangerous because actual criminals can slip through the cracks while innocent people are punished. By targeting people and how they look and the language they speak, the Trump administration is causing chaos, inciting protests, and making it harder for law enforcement to do their jobs. This isn't about law and order, it's about cruelty and chaos.
That's right.
Let's not forget, Donald Trump and Republicans have actually cut funding for law enforcement and public safety, not made it stronger. Democrats will continue to stand up and speak out against these cruel and dangerous actions and work tirelessly on ways that actually keep Americans safe. Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Representative Aguilar. Now let me bring up my good friend and colleague, Representative Robin Kelly.
Thank you, Congresswoman Jayapal, for everything that you're doing. You deserve so much credit. And thank you to Mayor Johnson, and thank you to Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle for hosting us, and all of my colleagues, as you have heard, from New York to California. I want to thank all the witnesses who came forward and all the people that are coming forward. One of my constituents, Genesis, shared the story of her mom, Laura Murillo, who was arrested and detained by ICE while she was working. President Trump and Secretary Kristi Noem are spreading racist lies that immigrants are lazy and don't work. Well, guess what? They arrested her while she was working. We don't know why she was detained, but if Laura is deported to her home country, she has every reason to fear that she will be killed. Her son and her son's father were killed after being deported. I am demanding answers on behalf of Genesis and her family so they can be united with her mom. ICE is simply tearing families apart. Secretary Kristi Noem should be ashamed of herself for parading in front of cameras and treating ICE raids like a game show. That shows her ignorance and her incompetence. Federal agents invaded my district, the 2nd District, deployed drones and helicopters and used flashbang grenades to burst through an apartment building in the South Shore. In the 2nd District again, federal agents caused a dangerous car crash and then shot pepper balls and tear gas into a crowd of people. And the 2 people injured in the car crash worked for Genesis' mother. ICE Gestapo tactics hurt everyone, whether you're an immigrant or not. It hurts our democracy and traumatizes our neighborhoods. Only a weak and dictator wannabe president needs to send troops to bully only Democratic cities and their residents. Democrats won't stay silent, and we will not give in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Kelly, and I hope everyone watches Genesis's very, very powerful testimony at the field hearing. It's really remarkable that we are in this situation where we hear stories like this. Let me bring up to the podium Representative Adriano Espaillat from New York, who is also the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus.
Good afternoon, Chicago. I bring you greetings from New York, from Harlem, from Washington Heights in the Bronx. This is yet another troubling day. What we witness here, the testimonies that we've heard. Masked agents, anonymous. Imagine if anybody comes to your home and knocks on your door without a first name or a last name or a shield number. You won't open up. You shouldn't open up. At the same time, sensitive locations like houses of worship are now subject to raids. We have little access to the detention centers, although the law guarantees us as duly elected members of Congress access to those centers. Tear gas, toxic fumes have been thrown even at members of our caucus, of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Senator Alex Padilla, a sitting member of the Senate for California, thrown on the ground. This is the state of affairs, the deployment of the National Guard, the weaponization of the Justice Department against the opponents of this wannabe dictator. These are all the characteristics of a dictatorship. America is not exempt from having a dictatorship. We have to fight back to preserve democracy. And we're here today as a step that shows that as a community, Chicago is fighting back, and Congress, the Democratic Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, we're fighting back. And we will continue to fight back and go to each and every one of the cities across the country where this is occurring, including New York, where you had a raid on Canal Street just yesterday. Estamos aquí para apoyar a Chicago. Entendemos que somos solidarios con Chicago, que no debe suceder aquí lo que también está sucediendo en otras ciudades. Vamos a objetar la agresión de Donald Trump y vamos a objetar la agresión de ICE. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Our last speaker today was a powerful witness at our shadow hearing and has been...
You've been listening into that press conference out of Chicago where they're discussing concerns about ICE in the city and immigration detention efforts in the city. They're going to continue for a little bit longer, but of course this is important as this has been an ongoing situation in Chicago. Important, of course, to hear from the mayor and what they have to say. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Hi, welcome back to Live Impact News. Just past 1:15 here in the Live Impact studio. Want to get to some important news, though. We just got this in. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young is officially listed as doubtful for this game this weekend against the Bills. This is obviously very important as we were kind of watching to see if this would happen. He's been out of practice for the last 3 days. I am going to loop in Jeb because this is not my strength. So, Jeb, what does this mean for the Panthers?
Well, Julie, it's a tremendous loss for the team. Bryce Young had been really playing extremely well this season. He had a fantastic game a couple weeks ago, and then even against the Jets before he suffered this ankle injury, he was playing well. So this is a tremendous loss for the team, but as Dave Canales and many football coaches on the league will tell you, it's next man up mentality. Andy Dalton, a veteran in the league, has won tons and tons of football games, has had a fantastic career. You know, he will want to be the guy against the Bills, so it's a big loss for the team because Bryce Young, first overall pick, fantastic option at quarterback. But next man up, I think it's Andy Dalton's time to shine. They have an offense. They're cooking with gas. Rico Dowdle looks great. They're trying to get Chuba Hubbard involved. I think it'll still be a great game against Buffalo, and hopefully Bryce Young, it's doubtful, not out, so hopefully that means he'll at least be back for the following week.
Exactly what I was going to say, Jeb. Thank you, as always, taking the words right out of my mouth. Also, of course, though, we've been talking about this as an important game in general. A lot of Bills fans in Charlotte. We've got a lot of Bills fans in this newsroom.
Yeah.
Right here.
I was going to say, maybe even in this room.
Not me. Not me. I do not identify with that. Me. But yes, so definitely an important game, one many people will be watching, so still holding out some hope. Of course, though, Nick and Eugene did their Panthers preview. They did record this, just mind you, before we got this news. I'm sure they addressed this, but we're going to get to that, and they'll break down a little bit more into what you can expect this weekend.
Welcome in on the Panthers on the Plus, also known as the Ball Brothers Panthers preview, and I got my Ball brother back.
I'm back.
Eugene. What's up, Eugene?
I'm busy.
I gotta ask you, how was the week off, man?
You know, so we took a week off because it was my 40th anniversary. My wife and I
Clap it up.
We celebrated 40 years being married. We went down to Cancun, Riviera Maya. It was a hotel. It was all inclusive. We had a great, wonderful time. When I mean all inclusive, all the food, all the drinks, everything is all included in the price of it. So that turned out to be great. I got to play golf. She got to go do some spa, some massages, some pedicures, facials, all that type of stuff. It was a great time. Then they had like a little entertainment later at night stuff. I mean, you really didn't have to go anywhere. You could stay right at the hotel, and I did.
Look, Carly,
it's beautiful.
Eugene's basically telling us he didn't want to come back.
I ain't want to come back, dude.
I'm a little jealous.
I'm telling you, if you ever have a chance to go down and even experience one of those all-inclusive deals, that hotel was pristine. It was on the beach. You had pools. You had private cabanas and pools everywhere. I mean, and just the premise. Oh, it was so beautiful. Then they had wild animals running on there. They had these little, I think they called them coatis, whatever. It almost looked like a better looking possum, you know, like raccoon / possum, running around, right? And then the iguanas were huge, man, walking around like climbing trees and carrying on and whatnot.
Dude, I know.
I can't. Wait a minute.
I can't do that. But I'm glad we're glad to have you back.
But it's good to be back.
You deserve that week off. All right, let's get into it. Week 7 was. Let's do a quick recap. What was Eugene right about? What was Eugene wrong about?
I tell you what, I thought that the defense had to play extremely well. The defense is outstanding.
Yeah.
What we see and what we saw against even Atlanta, we saw against the previous game here before the Dolphins.
Yeah.
We've seen this defense just shut down the running game. You know how hard that is to do?
Yeah.
You got to
some pretty good running backs at that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I'm like, hold up, man. Coach Gerald, what are you doing? And you got an 8-man front. You got I don't know what you're doing, but I do know one thing. Derek Brown is at the center of it because he's unstoppable.
That's your guy.
That's my guy.
That's my
that guy
too. That's
is
my guy.
unstoppable. This past game, he was responsible maybe for a sack and a half, and he just dominated the line of scrimmage. If you can dominate the line of scrimmage, it makes your secondary that even better. And our secondary was stellar.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely stellar. But I think it's all brought about because our defensive front, Wharton, you had Robinson, you got Brown, you got DJ Wanham, you got Princely, you got our front scoring. Yeah. They were just elite. Elite. They are getting that recognition now from the league to say, hey, this defense is one of the best defenses in the league.
Before we get to defense, we like to start on offense. Man, we got the Bills coming to town. It's going to be a big game. I don't know. I had on the rundown Andy Dalton a bit potentially starting, but Bryce Young, I've seen pictures. He's not in the boot and he's moving around.
That's what I heard too.
Game action is a little different. So hypothetically, if Andy Dalton is playing, what should we expect from the Red Rifle?
So one, he knows the offense, all right? So that's the one good thing. He knows the offense, and one thing I thought Andy Dalton has always done well is that his timing. He gets the ball out fairly quickly, and so he's gonna be able to assess quickly within that first 1.5 seconds going where he's going with the ball. Yeah. And he should be able to get through his progressions easily by 2 seconds. That ball should be out by 2.5 seconds. I don't expect it to be holding on the ball for 3 seconds. 3.5 seconds. I don't expect that with Andy. And so I like the fact that the weapons that we have, T-Mac, and we got to give him his props. Leggett, we got to give him his props.
He was on the list.
We got to give him his props. All right, because I was on him. No, I was on him.
We both were on him.
We both was on him, right? And I was saying he has to step up and show up. And he had 9 catches and a touchdown. The dude showed
92 yards.
92 yards. He showed up.
It was a sneaky game. It was like.
Say it again.
It was a very sneaky game.
Sneaky.
So I looked up. I'm like, wait, he has 92 yards.
I know he had 92 yards. He did that much. Okay. I don't remember it being like that, but he did. It was really quiet and so good for his confidence. Now, the guy who I think is the sleeper on this team.
Who is it?
Is Jimmy Horn.
I could tell. So it's
Jimmy Horn. Jimmy Horn is a sleeper.
Canales is working more plays for Jimmy Horn. So
he has to.
I feel like we're about to get a breakout game from Jimmy Horn.
He has. Jimmy Horn was running down the sideline on one play and decided to kick his speed up right there, and he left everyone standing still.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, he can't be that fast. That's Ted Ginn like. He can't. That's Xavier Worthy like. He can't be that fast, dude. That dude is that fast. He's running that. And here's the difference. When you're running, so like when they do a 40-yard dash, they get you typically standing still.
Yeah.
But they never get you when you're running.
Right.
We call it a flying 40.
Yeah.
If he's running a flying 40, like boom, running, has a 5-yard head start into the line and then go 40 yards, he's going to run somewhere like 3.9. Easy. Because he's moving too fast.
He's like he's floating. Like
he's moving that fast. He's moving that fast.
I've seen the jet sweeps. I've seen a couple of screens with Jimmy Horn. Are we on the right track when it comes to incorporating him in the offense?
Yes, but what I would like to see is that don't make it so predictable, because when he comes in, I'm thinking jet sweep.
Yeah, right.
When he comes in, I know, you'll get the ball quickly screen. Let him go ahead and take the top off that defense. Send them deep. Coach Canales, send them deep. Send them on that post. Send them on a Dino route. Right. Send them on that shake. Send them on the go route.
Because he's going to be open. Nobody's really going to be checking.
You can't. If you go man to man, it's going to be hard to stay with that dude. And here's another thing we're not talking about. The dude catches the ball.
Yeah, he can catch.
He can catch.
He was
sleeper alert. Sleeper alert, I'm telling you.
Look, he was wide open a lot in Colorado. It was just you had
you got Travis Hunter.
On the other side. Just saying. I do want to ask.
The real deal. He's the real deal.
He is the real deal. I do want to ask you about this because we talked about this briefly on text. Man, what's up with Rico and Chuba? Like, I don't necessarily love the every other possession load. Like, I didn't love that Chuba. I love Chuba, but we got to give the hot hand the ball. Like, let him start the game.
I think that I ran into a number of fans just being out, getting back to Charlotte, to ask me the exact same question. They said, "Hey man, Chuba and Dowdo, man, they need to get the hot hand. Right. They always said the hot hand. Let him eat. I think what Coach Canales wants to have the same problem he had with D'Angelo and Stewart.
Yeah.
Which is no matter who's in there, think about they remember they had 1,000 yards apiece.
Right.
They gonna eat, right? And I get it because it's a healthy competition. Right now, I think that since Dowdle he's that hot, I say ride his back.
He still had almost 80 yards, and he was cold. Like he was. I mean, he just looks like he gives the offense the juice. And honestly,
but
Bryce
Chuba does too. But the difference is he's. I think he's a little bit more decisive, but when he puts his foot in the ground, he's quicker.
He's more explosive.
Chuba.
Yeah.
He's much more explosive. So what you're seeing and what everybody else is seeing is that, man, Chuba's good. I ain't knocking Chuba, but this cat's explosive, and that's a really good word for him. He's explosive.
I don't think we've seen a back like that since
D'Angelo. D'Angelo was that type of guy who was explosive. He gets going like, oh my goodness.
And that's been a while. Like we've had decent running backs in Carolina. You saw Chuba last year.
Stephen Davis, Deshaun Foster, Jonathan Stewart. But I'm telling you about Dowdle is that. Biak. He's explosive. That dude gets his foot in the ground and he's gone.
Yeah.
He's not. Look, if I'm on the flip side of that. Okay, who does he remind me of that has that same? Remember Oz Hakeem playing for the St. Louis St. Louis Rams, and you had what was the two other receivers? Oz Hakeem, and then you had
Torrey Holt, and you had Isaac
Torrey
Bruce.
and Isaac Bruce, right? Oz Hakeem, when they were running him on a jet sweep of the snap, I said, "Oh man, we're about to be in trouble."
Yeah,
because he's too fast.
Yeah.
The quickness is too fast. You got to get to him right now. You can't let him get going because if he gets going, you ain't gonna catch him.
Yeah.
You got to have other fast defensive backs to catch him, right? And safeties ain't like corners. Corners are real fast.
Right.
Safeties could come up and hit you, but they can run, but they don't run like corners. And so it always gave me trouble going like this, man. I got to get down there now because if I don't get down there, he's going to scorch you. That's what Jimmy Horn brings to the table.
I think I love, I think Jimmy Horn is probably not even a sleeper when it comes to our team, but just in the draft overall. I just sort of kind of question Canales and his in-game adjustments. It seems like he's just slow to adjust. He's very stubborn with his offense.
I think he's deliberate with his offense in one bit. And you say stubborn, I say deliberate because I remember when he got away from the run, everybody was like saying, hey, you need to run the ball more because that's your bread and butter.
Right.
And it was against the who was we losing 17-0 to? Was that
it was a lot.
Was that the Dolphins? Oh, I forget. Maybe 3 games back.
It was probably the Dolphins. We were down 10.
We're down like 17-3, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And he stuck with the run.
Yeah.
And the run came back to go ahead and really put the points on the board to go ahead and turn the tide. And I think in there that he learned the lessons like, hey, I don't need to give up on something. I need to be really deliberate about my offense because even Luke Kuechly said this on air. He said that, you know what, Canales confuses me in a good way because as a defense, I don't know what's coming.
Okay.
He said,
I
don't know. I don't know what's, multiple formations. I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? I can't get out. You're talking about somebody who is an elite person to break down film, decipher what's going on, and go like this. Oh, the ball's going there.
Right.
Or the ball's coming here. Or the ball's on this. Oh, are you about to go ahead and run a dash? Oh, you about to hit me with the bootleg? Oh, you about to hit me with the Texas route? All that stuff that you diagnose, right? Yeah. He's saying that I can't figure him out. And I'm going, wow. And Luke can't figure him out. I know that's putting pressure on the safety and a middle linebacker who sees multiple formations go like this. What are the Panthers about to run? And not sure what they were about to run.
All right, so that was a break.
So I said about being deliberate. I think he's more deliberate, not stubborn.
Okay. All right. I can get with that. All right, so on the other side of the break, we're going to take a pause real quick. We'll be back, and we're going to talk about the defensive side of things as we head into Week 8. Thank you for watching here. Panthers on the Plus, Ball Brothers, Panthers preview. See you back in a little bit.
All right, we are going to take a quick break as well and come right back out to that Panther special. Welcome back. We're going to get back out to that Panthers preview in just a second. But again, heads up, this was filmed before we got the news that Bryce Young is doubtful, so keep that in mind as you listen.
Ball Brothers Panthers preview. It is week 8. I got my ball brother in Eugene Robinson. All right, so let's talk about the defense. All right, so it was a great game overall by the defense against the Jets. I really don't have. I'm nitpicking some stuff, but
Dude, when you stop the run, as they've been stopping the run lately, as they've been holding teams to 19, 31 yards, holding running backs who are good, not like they're great running backs.
Yeah.
And really destroying the run game and relegating you to just throwing the ball.
Right.
The defense has been off the chain. Wharton, Derek Brown, Robinson, DJ Warner, Princely, Scorton. This cats are eating, dude. You don't even hear about the linebackers. Why? Because them dudes up front is bringing noise, dude.
Right. They're really they're like a comfort blanket for our linebacker for our young linebackers.
Oh, let me play. I would love to play linebacker behind them dudes right now. I'm making tackles all day long. I'm letting them. You got Derek Brown taking on 2 and 3 people at a time, dude.
It is
throwing
insane.
them off and then making the tackle. You got defensive tackles getting sacks. Typically, it comes on the outside. Remember when Brian Burns was here? Remember when Hassan Reddick was here? You know, Julius Peppers, Mike Ruckers. It comes from the outside. It never really comes from the inside. Them cats are eating from the inside, dude. Eating.
I think, I don't know if I said this on the show, but I know I said this before the show. Derek Brown, best defensive tackle on the Panthers since Chris Jenkins.
Derek Brown, I'm going to go one more further, is the best defensive tackle in the league right now.
Heard it here first.
Dude.
I don't feel like there's enough conversation around that.
Dude. I ain't talking about Myles Garrett down at the Cleveland Browns.
We're talking about in the trenches. We're talking about in the trenches.
I'm talking about that cat in the trenches.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that cat like Aaron Donald that everybody knows, or Warren Sapp, or Cortez Kennedy like everybody knows, or John Randall like everybody knows. That defensive tackle who plays in that 3 technique or that 1 technique who's going to get double teamed every single time. That's Derek Brown. And guess what he's doing, my ball brother? He is just jacking cats up, placing them left, placing them right, dude. Left, right. Oh, I'll make the tackle. Or sometimes he comes on a stunt to free him on up, right? When we do a little Texas stunt, a little T&E stunt, boom, frees him up. And now you got a running back or somebody trying to tackle him. Good luck.
He looks better after a major injury. Like, I've never seen
this dude is the truth, man. This dude is the real deal, man.
A dude that size, playing that position, have a devastating injury, come back and look better than he did before the injury.
And let me go ahead and add on to what you just said. In the locker room when they were celebrating the win over the Jets, this and that right there, he said, hey, let's remember, that's just only 1 win. We got to go ahead and win next week. So we got to go ahead and we'll enjoy this. He said, we'll enjoy this today.
Yeah.
He said, tomorrow, he said, let's turn the page.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there going like this, dude, that typically comes from your quarterback. It typically comes from your middle linebacker or your safety. I already seen Reggie White do stuff like that. Reggie White,
the minister of defense.
He would come up and bring us up and he'd say, hey, this is what we need to do. We need to go ahead and put this win on the burner and get ready for the Cardinals coming up, right? I'm like, oh yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, we're ready for the Cardinals then, right? But that typically comes from the outside of your linebacker or your safety. It never really comes from the linemen. They're kind of a little bit like a little bit more low key.
Yeah.
Because they're not the person with the green dot. They're not the person that listens to the coach on the sideline, gets the information, and then communicates it to the rest. That's either safety. That's either your middle linebacker, not a lineman.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you might disagree on this one. How I said Rico Dowdle was the energy of the offense. Derek Brown is the equivalent to that. And I'm not comparing the skill set. I'm just saying
no, you're absolutely right.
Energy.
No, dude, look, I'm going to agree with you because that dude right there, dude, You don't want that smoke, dude.
You don't. So they got the.
You don't want that smoke.
We got the Bills. We have Josh Allen, Mr. Do It All. We have a Bills fan in here.
Okay, that's all right. We won't hold on. That's my blind friend over there. That's all right.
Yeah, Bills fan here in studio. Carlene, we're not gonna hold it against her.
Ain't nobody holding nothing against you, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
You know that's right.
We're gonna see what the Bills do.
I'm claiming her. That's us people. That's us people.
But we have Josh Allen.
Yeah,
this is not Justin Fields. This is not Tyrod Taylor. We got a taste of a really good quarterback in Dak Prescott. What are the keys? Is it the second? I mean, obviously you want a overall defensive experience where, all right, everybody's clicking. But what are the keys to really contain in this case?
He is a running quarterback. Don't forget.
Yeah.
He's a lot like Cam Newton in that because he can throw the ball from the pocket and he's good at it, but he can run. So you better have a spy on him. You better spy that cat.
Who is that spy?
I think that spy is either.
Is it Morig?
Rosebloom or Wallace.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and go with my linebacker.
Okay.
Because my safety, he's going to need to go ahead and take care of stuff, double teaming and things on in the secondary for that point. I mean, we got Jack and we got J.C. Horn. Doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Boom. But when it comes to all the stuff where we blitz them, this and that, you can go ahead and put down more rig and let them go ahead and spy on the blitz, but we use them effectively as a blitzer. So if you've used them as a blitzer, get in there, do your thing, you better have another dude to go ahead and spy him. So he can go ahead and eat and just have somebody spy him.
I mean, I definitely I love when Moore comes off the blitz. I think he's really effective. Now, look, if I'm going to be critical, he did miss 4 tackles.
I'm going to be critical on him, too, because
go.
That's my position right there. When I've seen
man, we need Eugene Robinson out there. I'm not being serious.
No, I'm just saying, this is my
One
position,
of the 50 greatest players in Seattle Seahawks
This is my position, and this is, if I was talking to Maury, this is what I would say to him.
Yeah.
When you're blitzing, Leroy Butler used to do this. Palomalo is kind of like the same way. When you're blitzing, you get back there. If the quarterback can see you, if the quarterback knows that you're coming, you got to slow down.
Okay.
You're not going to go ahead and get that blind side. If his back is to you, go ahead, run through him. He can't see you. But if he can see you peripherally, once you get past the line of scrimmage, you got to slow down your speed. Now, become like a basketball player guarding a point guard.
Yeah.
Keep moving forward, but get ready for the cut. Get ready for him to go ahead and make a move. Get ready for him not to throw the ball, but to make a move on you, because he realizes if you keep running at him, it's so easy to make you miss, dude. I'll let you get right next to me, dude. I'll let you get right next to me, and I'll just give you a little blah.
And Josh Allen is good for that. Like, he's good for
you ain't gonna just knock Josh Allen down either, because he's a big man. So I'm telling you, once you get there, slow your roll, get your hands up, and then make a tackle. Don't worry about trying to make that beautiful hit that's going to cause the fumble. Just make the tackle.
Right.
The sack is good enough. It puts them back 7 yards. It's good enough. And so what he's done is that he's overrun the quarterback. On a couple occasions, I'm going like this, dude, man. Yo, Maury, you got to slow down, dude. You're going too fast. I know you. Once you beat the line of scrimmage, you got to slow it down.
And give a guy like Tyrod Taylor.
Dude, Tyrod Taylor can run, dude.
Yeah. And if Tyrod can run, we've seen.
Look, I'm just telling you. I remember going up against John Elway. People don't realize John Elway is big. He's 6'6", dude. The dude is huge, man. Cam Newton is a big dude. You just Donovan McNabb. He's a big dude. You just ain't gonna rush in there and just throw him down the ground. You know, safeties? No, it's not. You got to be strategic. I'm going in there. I'm going to make that tackle. I'm going to strip at the ball. I'm going to do all that type of stuff like that. And what I think Morig is what he's doing stuff for the service, because I think he's trying to make that big hit. To make that big boom. I'm going to do it. Right. You've already passed the line of scrimmage. Slow your roll and just wrap up. Just make the play on this time. You don't have to make a sensational play. You just got to make a sack, not a sensational play.
That's right. All right. So we got quick hitters after the break, but man, just wrap up. When you when you're playing safety, just wrap up. That's what my little
slow your
coach,
roll and just get it wrapped up, dude.
And don't use your head either.
I know, don't do that, dude. and the quick danger in that is that if you go ahead and hit the quarterback too hard, you're gonna get a penalty flag. Just wrap up, baby.
Eugene couldn't play in today's NFL, man.
No, dude, you know that's right.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
All right, we're going to take a quick break as well. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Getting back out to that Panthers preview with Nick and Eugene now.
Welcome back here, Panthers on the Plus, a.k.a. the Ball Brothers Panthers preview, Week 8. I got my Ball brother in here, Eugene Robinson. We need to get to some quick hitters. All right, so it was a quiet Week 7 return for our guy, Jalen Coker. A lot of hype surrounding Jalen Coker, but he was there, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
Were the expectations too high?
Expectations too high because just getting off injury, everybody gets off injury, you're not going to be running as fast as you could possibly run because you're just trying to test it and make sure that you're okay. Now, look for this next game, look for him to shine.
Another guy that was kind of quiet in the game. He had 3 catches, T-Mac. And I've noticed this where we get him involved, and I think a lot of it is coverage. And look, they're putting all their guys on T-Mac, right? He's still a young guy. How do we get T-Mac more involved throughout the game where he doesn't feel like a ghost?
So what happens is you have to put him like in Jimmy Horn's a position where he's moving back and forth. He's on the line of scrimmage. You know, he's not that guy who's doing the movement.
Yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and get him more involved, you got to move him.
Yeah.
And so to one side of the field, to the other side of the field, or that's when your other receiver got to show up. Now, the fact that the other receiver showed up, XL, now it allows him to go ahead and eat because now you just can't concentrate and double team or put your emphasis on T-Mac because the emphasis will be on T-Mac right there. And the other thing is, if we're not talking about this, Bryce Young did a great job of distribution with the ball.
And he's not turning over the football.
Thank you.
That's been sort of our thing. Don't turn over the football. 2 hands on the ball and don't throw the intercept. I think the interception against Dallas, that was off T-Mac's hands.
That's off. Yeah, that's off T-Mac's hands. I can't account that for.
But Bryce's, I still have my critiques of Bryce.
I know. I love Bryce. I'm a big fan of Bryce, and I know that he's hurt. Hopefully that he's able to play because I think if he's able to play. I think he's in a groove right now. I think he wants
to play because I think he knows he's in that groove.
He's in a good groove right now.
A guy a lot of people are not talking about, but I think it's a guy high on our list. Mitchell Evans. I know you got a guy like JT Sanders, super athletic guy from Texas, but Mitchell Evans, man, he kind of reminds me. I don't know if Panther fans are going to get offended by this. I don't know if you're going to get offended by this. Wesley Walls.
You know what? I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with that assessment because he catches the ball well.
Yeah, in any spot too.
And yeah, he does. And so the other thing is that in our offense, it's not predicated upon the tight end.
Yeah.
It was only predicated on the tight end when Greg Olsen was here because Olsen was that dude.
Yeah, he was basically a big wide receiver.
He was that dude.
Yeah.
And then when Wesley Walls hit, because Wesley Walls was that dude, we ran a West Coast offense. The tight end is prolific in that offense. When we was here with Olsen, the tight end was prolific in that offense, right? It wasn't West Coast, but it's somewhat akin to it. Similarities. But our offense is really T-Mac.
Yeah.
It's really the receiver.
Yeah.
It's really the running back. You're designed to go ahead and eat.
Yeah.
The other dude is designed to do what? Block. He's designed to block.
Like Tommy Tremble, block.
That's block. Trimble, block. When we had Ian Thomas here, block.
But Mitchell Evans is like a security blanket. Like he's there. Yeah.
But you watch how Coach Canales is going to start exploring that and start exploiting that because I think that we found the gem in Evans because he can catch the rock. And now he can run a route. Clearly he can run a route. So does that mean that we change the offense a little bit to include the tight end? I think you'll see a little bit of that.
Jimmy Horn, we talked about this guy earlier. Jimmy Horn, do you see him get more action?
If he does not get more action, something's wrong.
Are you gonna call Canales?
Something's wrong.
Don't give me his number. I'll blow up Canales.
Dude, I am a fan. I tell you what, when Ted Gilman's here, the fact that you have speed, you can take the top off the secondary. When you got to do running down the middle of the field, on the go route. Typically, it involves two people. One, the corner, if he's on the outside, and the free safety, because you have to be deep as the deepest and wide as the widest.
He better hands than Ted Ginn. And I love Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn can drop some balls.
But think about this. When Ted Ginn was really prolific in that 2015 year, that was because of Cam Newton. And I asked him the question. I said, man, why are you getting busy so much? He said, because Cam Newton is throwing me the ball.
And throwing him open.
And throwing me deep. He's down 60 yards down the field, man.
Yeah, it was a track meet. It was a track meet.
And I'm telling you right now, if I think that Bryce starts to develop that relationship, or Coach Canales allows that relationship to foment, you're going to see that young man, Jimmy Horn Jr., running down the field, running past people.
And you know what we're going to see? We're going to see Jimmy Horn Jr. jerseys all throughout.
Yes, you will.
I was about to say Erickson Stadium, but that's if you know, you know. Bank of America Stadium.
Bank of America Stadium. I tell you what, you better get ready. I tell you, he's a sleeper, dude. The other teams, when they watch the film, they're saying what I'm saying, going, hey, man, who's this cat right here? Don't sleep on him.
Don't sleep on
him.
Hey, look, don't sleep on us. This is the best Panthers show out right now.
Right now? All right.
Right now. I'm just saying.
Hey, I ain't mad at you, dog.
The Ball Brothers Panthers preview.
You know that's
week 8. Bills in town this week. Should be an exciting game.
Spy. You got to spy. You got to spy Allen. You got to spy him with somebody.
Got to wrap up, man. 2 hands. Wrap up.
Wrap him up.
Wrap up.
Wrap him up. The dude can run through them tackles, man. Wrap up, dude.
That's Eugene Robson. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene Bragg. Panthers on the Plus.
You know,
AKA
CB.
the
I see you, Bragg.
Brothers
I'm here.
Panthers preview. Make sure you catch us each Thursday here on WCNC Plus. Until then, we'll see you for week 9. Have a great night, y'all.
All right, definitely lots to pay attention to, as that is going to be a big game for the Panthers. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News 155 here in WCNC Plus's studio. We're going to get to a check of your forecast. Of course, lots going on this weekend. Home game here against the Bills that we've been talking about. But overall, just a really crisp weekend of fall. So definitely looking forward to see.
Plenty of things going on.
Plenty of things going on.
Ren Fair.
Scarowinds.
You name it, it's happening.
Yeah, so we're going to check in with Majestic Storm, see what we got in store.
I mean, we're getting spoiled for our Friday forecast. Sunny skies, very mild temperatures, but let me tell you, you're going to want to soak up the next couple of days because we have some big changes ahead. Current temperatures right now for that lunchtime forecast, we're still in the 40s up in the mountains, 50s out there in Shelby and Hickory, low 60s here in the Queen City. But you can see temperatures really are just very comfortable as a whole. Daytime highs today are going to be a little cooler than the last couple of days, planned for some 60s, but you know what? Still very mild conditions if you're taking the family and heading out to Scarowinds tonight. There's that forecast. Temperatures will start to dip down into the mid-50s as soon as 8 p.m., so grab those layers. You're going to want it. Now, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, honestly, not bad. 60s, a little bit more cloud coverage on Sunday, but I do still think that we're going to be dry. Early next week, we start to see some changes, especially on Monday as another round of rain moves in. I mean, we've had an incredibly dry month of October. We've only had one day of measurable rain. Now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll have several rain showers moving in, several rounds of rain. So we are going to be weather impact alert on Monday, and then into Tuesday, because what we're watching will be a round of rain. Now, we think right now the biggest impacts will be on Monday with lingering impacts on Tuesday, but this is going to be wet rain. Temperatures are going to struggle, but we could accumulate 2 to 3 inches of rain by the time this is all said and done. So yes, enjoy the sunshine today, because by the time we're heading back to school, by the time we're heading back to work early next week, it's going to look a whole lot different. Just putting things into perspective, you can see this weekend, very mild fall conditions, but boy, next week, daytime highs only rising really into the 50s. This is how much rain we could see. Again, this is radar estimated, but we're seeing a pretty good agreement that really Monday and Tuesday, we're going to get a good round of rain, but bottom line, about 1 to 2, even 3 inches of rain will be possible. And this is going to be a dramatic change, especially after how dry everything has been throughout the month of October. Putting this into perspective even more, here's Monday at 3 o'clock. I think we'll actually get some rain Monday morning. And then here's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. That rain is still on the way. Here's my clock here. So 4 o'clock on Tuesday, we're seeing widespread rain all across the Carolinas at this point. Heading into Tuesday night and into Wednesday, that rain is still not done. And then there's a catch. Up in the high country, here's Thursday at 5 a.m. Not only rain showers, but you know what this pink means? It means we could see a little bit of a wintry mix of both rain and snow. Of course, for the higher elevations, we'll have to keep a close eye on that, but a lot of big changes heading our way. Again, rain chances will be highest on Monday, so we're going to be weather impact alert only for Monday. And then those rain chances, I mean, they're still there Monday and Tuesday, and we may have to extend that alert if we start to see those rain chances go up. But for now, Monday we have issued that, and it's just because it's a little bit of an inconvenience. No severe weather, no thunderstorms, nothing like that. Tropical Storm Melissa, this is 11 a.m. advisory. It is moving incredibly slow, still only 2 miles per hour, making some big impacts across Jamaica this weekend. So far, we've had 12 named storm. Usually, we average 14 named storms by this time of the year. And so we'll continue to watch Melissa over the weekend, as it is expected to intensify from a tropical storm into a Category 4 hurricane. Here's a quick peek at our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Sunny skies today and tomorrow. Sunday, more clouds start to move through, and then rainy weather is ahead.
All right, important check of your forecast there. We'll be paying attention to all things going on as this weekend continues. Lots going on, as Carlene said. We do want to get to some more serious news. Our Jessie Pierre is live. She's been following this officer-involved shooting for us. That was yesterday, and this is something, obviously, that's always a heartbreaking scene to cover, and she's our really expert in the crime realm. So, Jessie, what have you learned today so far?
Well, we're here at Moorhead and Freedom, where the chase ended in a crash, and this is also where police say a woman who was kidnapped was able to get away, but this is also where gunfire was exchanged between police and the suspect involved, who in the officer-involved shooting lost his life and died there. Now, I'll step out the way, and you can see some of the crime tape there and a cone there where the crash happened. And we are also learning more in the victim, in the man who about the man who lost his life in the initial shooting that set all of this in motion. He has been identified as 38-year-old Justin Westbrooks Carlton. Officers say that the incident began yesterday afternoon on North Hoskins Road near Brookshire Boulevard, where two people were found shot, and one of them was Carlton, who died from his injuries. Investigators also identified the suspect in this case as 28-year-old Joseph Andrade. He later broke into a nearby home, kidnapped that woman that I spoke about earlier, and led police in a chase, eventually firing at officers, and in that gunfire, officers returned to fire, killing him. The kidnapped woman was found safe. She was able to get away, but we were able to speak to Carlton's family, as well as a best friend, Justin Carlton's family, who, described him as a wonderful man. They described him as a person who was a good person, who can make anyone smile, who had a good heart, and say that, anyone who didn't get to meet him missed out, and this is a tragic loss. His family is completely devastated by this. And at this time, we're just continuing to gather more information about the suspect, the woman who was kidnapped, and really, there's so many questions about motive and what really caused this chain of events to even take place in the first place. So those are, part of the things that we are looking into. Now, the State Bureau of Investigation is looking into the officer-involved shooting, CMPD investigating the rest of the crimes involved in this. Julie?
Yeah, Jesse, I know a lot of moving parts in this particular situation, so lots of ground for you to cover. We appreciate your work as always. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you back at 5 and 6. We're going to take a quick break here in the Live Impact studio, but know that we did speak with Councilman Malcolm Graham. He represents that district about the impacts of a crime like this. We'll have that in just about 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News. It's 2:05. I mentioned we're going to get to Councilman Malcolm Graham about that officer-involved shooting. We do have that on our YouTube, and we will probably get to that later, but we want to get to something that's happening live right now. This is FBI Director Kash Patel, who is speaking in, I believe, Philadelphia, talking about I believe he's supposed to be addressing a drug trafficking situation, but of course other things going on at the FBI director's under his realm today, so hopefully he mentions some other things. We'll see.
We also want to apologize for the poor image quality that is on the NBC end, that's not on our end. We apologize. It should go in and out pretty well.
Yeah, we'll stick with it for a bit and see how it goes.
It's Attorney Metcalf here. You need shooters to bring these cases. You need people that aren't going to say no, that are going to bend the knee. They're going to say, oh, it's too hard to bring this case. It's too difficult to collect the evidence. When you hear the details of this case, everyone in America should be looking at this takedown. This takedown is how you safeguard American cities from coast to coast. This takedown is an interagency process, years in the making. Extensive legal service and process was executed here. Correctly done. Integrity of the investigation is upheld, and the criminals are put into the legal system and brought before a judge and a jury, and they will have their rightful day in court. But the overarching importance of this case and this takedown is this is exactly how you safeguard American lives. You go after the organizations that are inflicting pain across America in each and every city. And this is my tenure as FBI director. This is one of the largest and most impressive gang takedowns that I have ever seen. So I felt it important to come here and just shake the hands of the brave men and women that did this work. I did not have much of a role in this operation. The FBI brought in an incredible amount of assets to include HRT and SWAT teams, tactical teams to hit houses at the same time. The level of coordination that goes into just the takedown is a small reflection of the level of coordination and planning that goes into making a case like this happen. We have permanently removed a drug trafficking organization out of the streets of Philadelphia, and they're going to stop pouring guns and chemicals and drugs into our communities, and our children are safer today. So I just want to thank the men and women of law enforcement, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and of course, proud men and women of the FBI for leading the charge across this country. If anyone out there is watching in your streets, in your communities, this is how you stop gang violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. It's an honor to have you here today. My name is David Metcalf. I'm the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. I'm pleased to be joined by Special Agent in Charge Wayne Jacobs for the FBI, Special Agent in Charge Todd Hodnett with the DEA. We're also joined by the Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office, Kirsten Hine, and Chief of Criminal Investigations John Kissinger. And of course, we're always pleased to have Commissioner Bethel here. It's an honor to have you here, sir, as well. Today we are announcing a historic indictment. This case involves 33 defendants. It's a massive drug trafficking conspiracy spanning nearly a decade, involving tremendous volumes of fentanyl and narcotics, and it takes place at the epicenter of the opioid crisis here in the Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia. This indictment by defendant is the largest federal indictment this century brought by our district. And like a precision missile, it has been targeted for maximum impact where it needed to go. As I said, at the heart of the opioid scourge here in Kensington. As of this morning, 29 defendants are in custody, thanks to a successful operation by the FBI and our other law enforcement partners. Throughout the course of the coordinated takedown, as well as the investigation overall, we've been able to recover dozens of firearms off the street, including assault rifles, seize substantial volumes of fentanyl and narcotics at locations associated with the defendant. This case takes place at the crossroads of drugs and violence, and we are all here with a loud and unmistakable message that we are reclaiming these neighborhoods for the people who live and work here. We are taking back what the defendants are alleged to have stolen from the community, which is peace, prosperity, law, and order. As the director's presence here today indicates, this case is special. It's one of those few cases which, if successful, will eliminate an entire criminal outfit. It will clean and cleanse a whole neighborhood and will virtually eradicate a violent drug trafficking organization root and stem. To be clear, every defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty. An indictment is only an allegation. And this indictment alleges that the Weymouth Street drug trafficking organization, for nearly a decade, sold and distributed substantial volumes of fentanyl, crack cocaine, cocaine, and heroin, mostly in the 3100 block of Weymouth Street. They made their living in one of the most notorious and prolific segments of an open-air drug market here in Kensington. They ran it like a business, but they also ran it, as the director alluded to, by violence, by fear, and by threats. They enforced their territory through the threats of assaults, shootings, and murder. They threatened anyone who talked to or cooperated with law enforcement. They were armed. The indictment further alleges that this DTO was led by Jose Antonio Morales Nieves, aka Flaco, a 45-year-old man from Puerto Rico, but a frequent flyer here in Philadelphia, who essentially owned the 3100 block of Weymouth Street and allowed other members of the DTO to sell drugs on the block in exchange for a payment of rent. He was joined by Ramon Roman Montañez, 40-year-old from Philadelphia, who essentially ran the day-to-day operations of the Weymouth Street DTO. He collected revenue, he organized the schedules of the workers, and orchestrated a pretty sophisticated business enterprise that peddled in poison. He also was responsible for procuring the drug supply for the organization. And on that score, I'll note that the indictment alleges that this organization did not care how dangerous the drugs were that they peddled to customers. Mr. Montañez wanted it as strong and as powerful as possible. In fact, the indictment alleges that at one point, one DTO member acknowledged the deadly nature of the drugs they were selling, and yet the DTO continued to sell it day by day, month after month, for nearly a decade. Fortunately, both of these men and most of their compatriots are now in the custody of the FBI, awaiting federal prosecution. I encourage all of you to read the indictment. It is now unsealed, and I couldn't possibly encapsulate and summarize all the offense conduct in just a press conference, but it is truly staggering. As I mentioned, this case is special. As the U.S. Attorney, obviously represent the office and I lead it, but as a career prosecutor, I'd be remiss if I didn't give true credit where it belongs, which is to the line prosecutors and agents who built the case. And you only build a case like this with skill and ferocity, and day by day working it up to build a case that truly makes a difference. A case that is a long-term, comprehensive annihilation of a criminal organization. Those don't come around a lot. And I'll also say this couldn't be done without Commissioner Bethel and the Philadelphia Police Department. When you have a case like this and you have a significant federal indictment, I sometimes think there's this misconception that is a purely federal case. And that's just not true. You can't build a case like this, of this magnitude and scale, without the support of the Philadelphia Police Department. You can't do it without the resources they provide, and more importantly, the intelligence. And on that score, while I have everyone here, I'd like to talk about this case, but also talk more globally and strategically about what we're doing in this city to combat gun violence and drug trafficking. Because it's more than this case. This case is just an illustration and example of that work. And what we're doing is the Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney's Office, FBI, DEA, HSI, ATF, and the Philadelphia Police Department have established an initiative, a violent crime initiative called PSN Recon. This is the violent crime initiative of the federal and state law enforcement community to attack violence in this city going forward. PSN Recon is named after Project Safe Neighborhood, which is the department's existing program combating gun violence. It is ultimately a criminal intelligence program. It's a way for all of us to consolidate and collect the intelligence from the entire law enforcement community and identify, target, and investigate the worst violent actors in this city. Because cases like this don't get formulated based on the word of one confidential informant or one ballistics match. You only put together cases like this, you only stop the violence by targeting the worst actors based on the best intelligence. And the best intelligence doesn't live in one place, it lives everywhere. And so Commissioner Bethel, myself, and our federal agency partners are now meeting every month to diagnose block by block, district by district, gang by gang, who is driving the violence in this city. You'll hear more details about PSN Recon in future dates, but this case is a good illustration of what this program is about. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Special Agent in charge, Wayne Jacobs, for the FBI to talk.
Thank you, sir. I want to start by thanking our director, Mr. Patel, for being here. His support of this investigation of our field office means everything to the folks who put this work together. So thank you, sir, for being here. For too long, the Weymouth Street drug trafficking organization flooded the streets of Kensington with drugs and terrorized residents with horrific acts of violence and intimidation. That ended today. Early this morning, the FBI, working with our state, local, and federal partners, executed arrest warrants for 22 at-large defendants. 8 additional defendants who are currently in local custody will be transferred into federal custody next week. Also executed this morning were 11 search warrants. The results of those search warrants are still pending. This morning's operation involved hundreds of law enforcement personnel, 9 tactical teams, and extended beyond Philadelphia with arrests in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Wilmington, Delaware, and Millville, New Jersey. But the vast majority of our actions were concentrated right here in Kensington, where this organization devastated the community, fueled violence, and spread fear among residents for nearly a decade. Today's arrests are a culmination of a multi-year investigation, a testament to the persistence, coordination, and dedication of the women and men who refuse to let this organization continue to harm this city. Our message is clear. The FBI and our partners will not tolerate those who endanger our neighborhoods through drugs and violence. While our work today is done, our commitment to this city is not. We will remain here standing with the people of Kensington, protecting those who seek peace and stability in their neighborhood. As the United States Attorney just emphasized, today's action advances the goals of Project Safe Neighborhoods, and specifically PSN Recount, a focused initiative that identifies the most violent and dangerous individuals in our communities and holds them accountable. The FBI proudly amplifies that message. We stand with this community. Our job doesn't end with these arrests. It includes building trust, listening, and working together to create lasting safety. In the coming days, residents will see FBI public safety ads on social media platforms with information on how to safely and securely share tips about drug trafficking and violent crime in your communities. If you know something that can help make your block safer, we want to hear from you. Every piece of information, no matter how small, can make a difference. Finally, I want to thank our partners. Partnership sits at the foundation of everything the FBI does. None of this would have been possible without the commitment and professionalism of every agency, department, and office represented here today. Philadelphia has made tremendous progress in the fight against violent crime, and that work continues. Together, with our partners and with the people of Kensington, we will keep building on that momentum to make our city safer and stronger. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Bell.
Thank you for that, Wayne. I appreciate those words, and just wanted to recognize the team here today. You know, as I live around the group here, Director Patel, I appreciate the support.
You've been listening into a press conference out of Philadelphia where FBI Director Kash Patel joined multiple officials about a major drug bust operation. We are also, of course, tracking Tropical Storm Melissa as it approached Jamaica. They are currently preparing for that, and that was in, there it is now. They are having I believe, a press conference now addressing what they are doing to prepare, of course, as it quickly approaches. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News. We want to get to one of our biggest stories, not just here in Charlotte, but nationally. We are following, of course, the multiple people arrested and charged in this federal gambling investigation that includes Terry Rozier, a former Hornets player. He now plays for the Heat. So yesterday, Colin Mayfield interviewed someone with Locked On Hornets about this investigation and the impact of something this big. So we're going to take a look at that.
Walker Mell from WFNZ. Walker, a lot has happened today in this indictment where 30 individuals have been, I guess, talked about in this illegal gambling ring. There are two different situations ongoing here. So I'll just set the scene here while you're obviously going to talk to us a little bit about Terry Rozier and how he is involved in this. But there are two situations. One of the cases is dubbed Operation Nothing But Bet. The other one is dubbed Operation Royal Flush, which is really talking about 31 defendants who were in this plot to rig underground poker games. Now, Mr. Rozier was involved in the other plot, it seems like. And there's a timeline about this. And in the NBC article, Walker talks about specifically the March 23rd game of 2023 when the Hornets were facing the Pelicans. And then allegedly Mr. Rozier telling a family friend about going down with an injury. So let's talk about this. Set the scene for us. You covered and have covered the Hornets so much over the last decade or so, and you were really front and center when Terry Rozier was here playing for Charlotte, as a favorite player for a lot of folks on the Hornets. Talk about that timeline and really, what kind of sticks out in your mind from this case that we're seeing today?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. So, yeah, I was covering it front and center. I didn't know what I guess I was covering front and center at the time until all this information comes out today, which is, pretty alarming within the league, I think is safe to say. So with Terry Rozier, you mentioned that game. You mentioned that game in March 2023, 2023, where, he told a childhood friend that he was going to be exiting the game early before it was public knowledge. And that's the real issue at hand. And that, okay, you tell your friend that you're going to exit the game early before it's public knowledge. Now what your friend can do, and it's allegedly what he did, was that he sold information that Terry told him to different people, different bettors, associates, and then their proxy bettors. And all of these people made money off of something that was not public knowledge in a controlled environment, when the very nature of gambling is something that is supposed to be a non-controlled environment. You are taking a risk, and then you remove a ton of that risk once you get this information and you're able to profit hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then so the real issue as well is the fact that his friend allegedly flew up to Philadelphia to collect the funds and then drove to Terry Rozier's house, allegedly afterwards, to where they counted the money. So this is a big issue with Terry Rozier and the NBA at this point. You mentioned the other operation that Terry Rozier is not involved in. Chauncey Billups is. Damon Jones actually is the former NBA player that was this indirect coach with the Lakers for quite some time over the last couple of seasons, but he's involved in both cases as well. And so with the Terry, the specifics of it is with Terry being a part of it, that kind of puts the spotlight on the Charlotte Hornets in some level, even if the Hornets aren't accused of any wrongdoing, not accused of having any knowledge of the situation at hand as it was going on. What's interesting to me is that Brian Windhorst on the Rich Eisen show earlier today said, with Terry Rozier going out of that game in 2023, he actually wouldn't play another game that season. So we all thought at the time it was because of this injury that was being reported on, except now it doesn't look like it was an injury. Again, this is all alleged. And so the NBA could have just pulled him and said, you're not allowed to play another game. So if that was the case, the Hornets have to know something is going on. I don't know what. That's all speculation as far as what the NBA would have told him, what would have been said to Terry Rozier, and how much anybody knew at the time. We just know that Terry didn't play the rest of that 2023 season. Eventually, he would play the following year with Charlotte for a while before he was traded to the Miami Heat. So, yeah, a lot of interesting stuff coming out of all of it, and it'll be fascinating to see how Adam Silver and the NBA respond.
Well, let's just talk through this, right? A very convoluted situation here, Walker. And it says in this article that, Rozier's choreographed exit in that 2023 game against the Pelicans was just one example of the information sharing system at work. And in fact, Damon Jones, who we've seen in the NBA, has been a prominent person himself, sold information apparently on a prominent NBA player's injury to bettors while he was an unofficial assistant coach for the LA Lakers. You kind of alluded to that in February of 2023. So they have a number of these situations. In fact, when the game started that night, fans and viewers learned that LeBron James was out with a sore left ankle and foot, according to a game recap from that time. So it will be very interesting to see who else is related to this, because this is, again, as we've specified, just one part of this case. The other dealt with, obviously, Chauncey Billups, as you said, kind of being the face for these type of gambling games where they would lure in these high-stakes poker players using some type of contact lenses that would literally read these cards, Walker. I don't know if you've read this. And then also x-ray table machines that would help him win. And at some point he would have to lose so it wouldn't become obviously in their face, right? So folks would think that this could be something that they would look into. But it was just out today that 4 of the 5 crime families from New York, we're talking the Genovese, the Lucchese, the Gambino, and there's another one that were involved in this, where these illicit funds were apparently going to. So it will be very interesting to see, again, who is wrapped up in this, because it seems like some prominent players are involved. And again, even though the name LeBron James is involved in this, this is not to say that he was directly indicted in this. But again, numerous incidents that they have. And again, just to bring this to fruition, the NBA denied any wrongdoing, not too long ago with Terry Rozier's case, right?
Yeah, they did. And then it was reported months after that actually wasn't the case, that they were a little too quick to jump the gun on that situation. And so the FBI had been investigating the situation with Terry for quite some time. So you brought up all of it, right? I think the real issue is what Kash Patel of FBI said was insider trading within the association, within the NBA. You have this knowledge that you can directly benefit from before the rest of the public knows, and you're able to profit hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how much you were willing to bet on these prop bets specifically, right? Because you're not betting on spreads, which is the amount of points that a team might win by or lose by. You're not betting on money lines, which is just outright winning and losing. You're betting on player props, and what you're doing is you're betting on the under for these player props, because you have firsthand knowledge before anybody else knows about a player either leaving the game early. Before the game happens, you know he's going to leave the game early. So the idea is that you bet the under, you bet a lot of money on the under. Well, if you can't reach some of those marks, that's hard to reach in, let's say, 30 minutes, you're not going to reach it within 10 minutes. In the Terry Rozier case, the 9 minutes and 34 seconds that he played in that game against New Orleans in 2023. So this is the idea that you can just put a whole bunch of money on the under for whatever player you expect to leave early or that has an injury. And in the Chauncey Billups case, for instance, Portland was really going to amplify their tanking measures in order to get a better pick in the 2023 NBA draft. They were really going to turn that up at a certain point in the season, and it just so happens to align with when there were some bets coming in on the Trailblazers losing a lot more, right? The very idea of tanking is that you're purposefully going to lose as an organization, even if the players aren't outright throwing games. The players don't tank, the organizations do, and the coaches know about it. The coaches are mandated by the front office to play players that aren't as good. So Damian Lillard wasn't playing at a certain time all the way back a couple of years ago with the alleged incident, and he actually wouldn't play another game. I believe they lost 15 of the last 17 games, and money started coming in right at the very beginning of that losing streak, which at the very, very least looks fishy. So yeah, there's a lot out there in terms of what Chauncey Billups was accused of in terms of allowing others to know this information, giving insider information away and selling it. Same thing with Damon Jones selling some of that inside information on the Lakers front. And same thing with Terry Rozier selling inside information on what he himself was going to do. So it's an awful look, even if the NBA itself is not having any part in the control of these games. I know a lot of conversations or conspiracy theorists might say that the NBA is rigging it. At worst, I think the NBA is going to be guilty of negligence for allowing Terry Rozier to play the following year, right? Because he didn't play the rest of that 2023 season as soon as he took himself out of the game, but he ended up playing at the beginning of the 2024 year. And the real issue, too, is that the gambling sites actually let the NBA know as soon as they got all of this money on the under for some of the Terry Rozier props. So the NBA knew that these bets were flagged. So they knew exactly the risk that was being taken here, which is why they might have pulled Terry Rozier. And okay, you pull him, he doesn't play the rest of that season, but then why is he playing the following year? Well, it could be because in your investigation within the NBA, you decided that there was no evidence of wrongdoing. Okay, but now with these allegations, it looks quite bad. So the NBA is going to have to answer for that. Either you're going to have to answer for why you allowed Terry Rozier to play that following season, or you're going to have to answer for why you found him not guilty of any wrongdoing within your investigation.
Great answer. I got to ask you because his attorney, Rozier's attorney, earlier today, even on WCNC Plus, we had a live interview. We heard him talk about Jontay Porter, that this wasn't a Jontay Porter case. And as many people probably remember, Jontay was given the death penalty for the NBA, basically, to not play again, pleading guilty in federal court because of the alleged betting that he had done on NBA games and disclosing of confidential information in his own participation to bettors. Do you see any similarities between either case? Neither one of us are law experts, but you've been covering, sports, and we've seen just the turnover and how betting has become a huge thing. I mean, even ESPN Bets, they run that crawl throughout their entire show. So it's hard to get away from, especially in sports right now. Do you see any similarities to this? Because as I said, he brought up the Jontay Porter situation. There seems to be similarities, but also some vast differences as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Just to simply answer your question, yes, there's absolutely similarities here. The similarities are that you allow people to know you're not going to play in the game or you're going to leave the game very, very early. So now these people can take advantage of these unders on prop bets. They know you are not going to reach the mark, and therefore they can profit, in this case, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so Jontay Porter, with the NBA conducting an investigation themselves, they found all the evidence of wrongdoing because there wasn't a whole lot of discretion used here, right? Like, this isn't the smartest of activity via all of the crime that's going on. When you're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars or $100,000 on random NBA props in the middle of March, that's going to raise some flags. And again, going back to that previous point, gambling sites flagged this. They are incentivized to catch this sort of thing so they can go preach to their consumer, hey, it's all fair. There's no funny business going on around here. They want to be able to sell that to their consumer. So this is not great for business, right? People don't want to feel like they're betting on something that is rigged and they're going to lose and all they're doing is lighting money on fire. So it's why these betting sites, they are flagging it. They are letting the NBA know. The NBA is going to conduct an investigation themselves as a separate entity. And in the Jontay Porter case, there was just an overwhelming amount of evidence that was not going to be able to truly be defended. Therefore, he pleads guilty and he's now in jail. Like that, you mentioned it, the death penalty, lifetime ban from the NBA. That's absolutely at play here with Terry Rozier also, as long as he's found guilty. Same thing with Chauncey Billups. Same thing with Damon Jones. So, yeah, there are plenty of similarities. And I understand it's in the best interest of Terry's attorney to say, no, there's no similarities here. Yeah, there absolutely are.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, I think, to defend some of the evidence that could be brought up in court. Obviously, we'll have to see where that goes. Set the scene. Last thing for us. You were talking about 2023, the rest of that season, how Terry didn't play into 2024. Can you kind of talk about how Terry even got to the Heat, what that looked like at that time to kind of set our memory straight, just to remember?
Yeah, no, it's a good question because Terry Rozier on the basketball court, and look, he was a really important player to this franchise. So to try to wrap this up as much as possible, it's a long story. But remember, Terry Rozier came to Charlotte off of the heels of what I consider to be the best Hornets player of all time in Kemba Walker. So there was a sign and trade conducted. Kemba Walker goes to Boston, and in order for Boston to land Kemba without any competition, they agreed to a sign and trade. And in that sign and trade, what came back to Charlotte was Terry Rozier. And a lot of people hated the move. But what happened was Terry actually found a home, played really well, was our clutch time performer, was in contention for the newly found clutch award in the NBA that's been in existence for like the last couple of seasons. He really mattered to this team. And he came through in a lot of clutch moments. He was averaging 20 points per game. He was a really good three-point shooter. He was somewhat of this mentor to some of the other younger players on this team. And so that kind of speaks to him being a beloved player by Hornets fans, more so than your average Hornets player that had suited up in the purple and teal for, 5 years plus. Terry Rozier was beloved. He was starting to hit a little bit of a lull with this team, but even more so than that, the Hornets needed to figure out a direction they wanted to head. Do we want to continue to marinate in this mediocrity, or do we really want to pivot, maybe be bad for a while by trading some of our better players for assets towards the future and figure out what we can do in a couple of years? That's what happened with Terry Rozier. That trade to Miami actually signified a real direction that this Hornets team took by trading him for an unprotected first-round pick, which is about as valuable a single piece of a single asset can get, right? An unprotected first, it could be anything, especially with Miami having a bunch of older players. They could be bad and get a top 5 pick. If you are one of the worst teams in the league and you're awarded a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, because you traded it, you don't get it anymore. That belongs to the Hornets. It's extremely valuable. So it was shrewd business on part of the Hornets, especially with Terry Rozier being injured down in Miami, really never, ever finding his footing. It's been a complete disaster, honestly, down there with the Heat organization, separate from this incident, which we can all agree is a pretty big disaster. So that's how he was traded. That's how he came here. That's the kind of life he created for himself with Hornets fans. And this is how he's in Miami. And we might be looking at how he's going to be out of the NBA entirely. Fascinating stuff to see with what's going to happen with Terry Rozier's future.
Last thing, how do you, if you were Charles Lee, quell the hoopla that will happen around this? As we've talked about, the Hornets are going to be involved in this in some form or fashion. They're going to have to be, because he played, Rozier was here for quite some time. So if you're Charles Lee, right, we have this team with a lot of rookies. So many of them played well last night, right? 1-0, unselfishly passing the ball around, all this optimism for this new season, and then we get this huge indictment that does include a former player in the Hornets. How do you think Charles Lee goes about, stymieing all the negative stuff that's going to come from this, especially as they're headed with this momentum into this new season?
Yeah. So it's natural to think that they're going to have to address this head on and then move forward. I actually don't think it's going to be that big of an issue for this team. One, there are quite a few young players on this squad that don't know who Terry Rozier is. In fact, 3 rookies just suited up in their opener, and they don't know about Terry. Now, LaMelo does. Miles Bridges does. There are some new acquisitions within the last year that didn't play all that much with Terry or didn't play with him at all. And so that kind of helps move on. But I guess the real issue would be, okay, LaMelo, are you good personally because this was clearly a friend? Miles Bridges, are you good personally because this was clearly a friend? Everything good with you? Cool, let's move on and try our best to help the Charlotte Hornets win basketball games. With Charles Lee specifically, he actually never coached Terry Rozier. So with Charles, it's less of a question about how he handles his team and more how the players that did suit up with Terry handle the situation moving forward. I think as an organization, what are the Hornets going to have to answer for? What's good for them is I don't think a whole lot. They'll be asked some questions. I think the questions that will be asked is, when Terry Rozier didn't play the rest of that 2023 season, what were you told by the NBA? Why didn't he play? They're going to answer that question with no comment. They're going to say, look, we're going to leave that to everybody else involved. Terry Rozier is not a member of the Hornets anymore. We're just going to address players that currently suit up for the Charlotte Hornets. It feels like probably a no comment type of answer. That's what I would guess that we would ever get. But also, in terms of worrying about the wrong stuff, right, there are plenty of bigger fish to fry for the NBA. Local media might care what Charlotte's hands are in this. And I really think this. I don't think the Hornets are going to be found of any wrongdoing here. Like they didn't know, right? There's no allegations towards the Hornets that they knew what was going on with Terry when he told his friend that he was going to leave the game early, right? The only thing that they would have known is if he was really injured, and maybe even not that, maybe Terry Rozier just said, I'm sick, I'm not feeling very good, and the Hornets couldn't find anything, and they were just trusting that Terry was telling the truth. If it was flagged and the NBA knew and they told the Hornets to pull him, now we got to figure out if they told the Hornets exactly why they need to pull him for the rest of the season, where Terry went. Did he spend the rest of the time with the team? I don't remember him on exit day all the way back in 2023, but perhaps he was there, perhaps he wasn't. I don't know if those are important enough questions for national media to ask. Local, I think the only reason that we would ask it is just out of sheer curiosity. I don't think anything really legal comes from it in terms of the Hornets being guilty of any wrongdoing. I think you probably, if you're the Hornets, get to wash your hands of all of it and say, he's with the Heat, he's not our problem, we're good, and they're not entirely wrong about that.
Great. I appreciate you taking that question and fielding it for me. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you think in your mind should be brought up or to talk about at all here, Walker?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you giving me the platform because this is interesting to me, okay? It's going to be really hard to legislate all of the parameters that come with legalized betting. And the hardest part to legislate is the soft spots in the system. The soft spots are when you have a shoot around or you have a practice or you have media availability. People like myself, people that cover the team for newspapers, for any publication whatsoever, are inherently going to develop relationships with people a part of the organization, whether it be a player, a coach, a trainer, a person on staff, somebody that works in the Spectrum Center that knows one of the players really well. And so it gets really hard to control all of the information out there. The NBA players, it is constantly a reminder for them by the league, by the team, that they are not allowed to let people in on that kind of knowledge. If you are going to be, if you're going to miss the game and they haven't released it yet, you can't tell anybody, so they can go rush to their betting site and put a whole bunch of money on the under, or even just $5, $10 to where it's not nearly as obvious. It's going to be really hard to legislate those soft spots in different relationships, different forms of communication that you might have. And it's why I think they're going to crack down. The NBA is absolutely going to crack down with all of this coming out today. But I don't know if they'll ever truly be able to put the clamps on any of this type of stuff happening. People are going to get smarter. You're always going to have those relationships, and it's always going to be something that the NBA keeps an eye on, even if it means they can't stop it.
Well, that's a discussion, right? I think I've read a couple of different articles today, Walker, that talks about how do we go back to making gambling illegal again, or maybe just keeping it in Las Vegas where it was for so long, right? And I don't know we go back to that point. But it is interesting, as you talk about, to see some of these soft spots because it is, I mean, it's all over. I mean, they're putting it, I mean, there are so many disclaimers that you can find, the small print, that it is hard. I mean, outside of maybe putting an NBA official with those individuals during those soft periods, I don't see how they get around that. So I think you do bring up a big question that I think they're going to have to answer. And I imagine they are going to try and legislate this, but there are going to be some holes probably in that as well. So I guess we'll see, where it goes.
Yeah. And again, one thing that I really hope doesn't result from this is such tighter media access and limited media access, which hinders media's job covering the team, even if this is something that clearly needs to be addressed. I hope that it doesn't come at the expense of people's ability to do their job in relaying the information that is supposed to be public knowledge to the people that care about this sort of thing, that, funds the whole cycle that is sports and entertainment. It's going to, we'll see about some of the pitfalls.
Yeah. I mean, look at what the Panthers are doing, right? Waiting on, I know that this is a totally different relation, but I think that's why you hear injuries in football and stuff like that. It comes out way later. And I wonder if that's what they'll do in the NBA, is to hold some of this information as long as they can, to depend on, where it goes and who hears it. So,
Just
this is
honest,
a
right?
new
right. Like be as honest as possible. I think that's what's going to happen too. Is like that no hiding it, man. We're going to come out with it early. Competitive advantage. Trickiness here. Yeah, it'll right. I don't know how the NBA is going to respond fully, but they do have to respond, and it's got to be a pretty strong response.
Certainly it will be, especially off of what we saw from Jonte Porter. Walker Mel with WFNZ and Locked On Hornets. We certainly appreciate your time, sir. You do a great job, and we appreciate your expertise as well tonight. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see Walker hopefully soon.
All right, really interesting interview there with Colin and an expert from Locked On Hornets about the impact of this really extensive investigation. I believe 30 arrests made, including some with Charlotte connections. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News. I mentioned earlier when we were hearing from Jesse Pierre at the scene of that officer-involved shooting that we had spoken to City Councilman Malcolm Graham. This is his district where this happened. And as we mentioned, a lot of moving parts still in this investigation. We'll get an update later from Jesse at 5 and 6. But here's that interview from earlier where Malcolm Graham talks about this investigation, this really tragic situation, and what this means for his district.
Welcome back to Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. So a violent crime spree, if you haven't heard, spanned multiple locations in West Charlotte, ending in a deadly officer-involved shooting yesterday early evening. Left one person dead, the suspect dead. 2 people altogether wounded, and a woman kidnapped before police fatally shot the suspect. This happened all in District 2, represented by City Council member Malcolm Graham, who joins us now here in the Live Impact studio. Thanks for coming in such short notice, Mr. Graham. Happening in your district, what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, so disconcerting, right? Yesterday I was at a press conference at 2 o'clock talking about public safety as it relates to things that we were doing in Uptown to ensure, which is a part of District 2 as well, to ensure that the residents of Uptown, those who go uptown to play, those who work uptown, feel safe. Cleaning the sidewalks after 2 a.m. in the morning, replacing broken benches, more police officers on the street. Really just kind of talking about some of the things that we're trying to do to ensure that people in Uptown feel safe. 2 hours later, we get texts in reference to an incident that occurred where, as you indicated, 2 were dead, a kidnapping, a car chase, ending with the perpetrator dead in the middle of the street. It's disconcerting for those in Charlotte who believe that Charlotte is not safe, because if you don't feel safe, you're not safe. And that's certainly a visible bad example of the reality of what's happening in Charlotte as it relates to public safety. A very visible example that occurred in the late afternoon during rush hour that started in a neighborhood, went on our freeways and landed up on a major street in our community. We can't stand for that. We still don't know all the particulars about the perpetrator. We do know that there was loss of life and that our CMPD officers responded heroically and courageously, identified the threat, and unfortunately put down the threat in our community. And so I'm just heartbroken that yet again, as we try to make positive steps forward addressing a wide variety of perception issues, but perception is reality. Right. And yesterday was real, and people were killed, and yet again we're responding to a violent incident in our community.
Yeah, public safety, we've been talking now, it seems like for months, about the top of mind that this conversation is really about public safety, violent crimes, and that this seems random. I know we're still learning the details, and there's no motive yet, according to the chief. And the trend, like you said, perceived by folks in the Charlotte area or even visiting Charlotte, it seems like it's an isolated incident, but yeah, how do you fight against this current topic right now?
Well, public safety is the team sport, and so it's just not what the city can do, it's what we all can do. We certainly need help from the North Carolina General Assembly. We simply just have too many guns on the street. When you talk about a lot of these incidents, 90% of them involve a gun. The proliferation of guns, the easy accessibility of guns, people willing to pull the trigger, not using any conflict resolution skills before pulling the trigger is a major cause of what's happening. So we need help from the General Assembly on gun laws. We need help from the General Assembly relating to magistrate reform, right? And more funding for the district attorney's office, more funding for public offenders, for technology in our court system. We need to work with the county as well as the state for more resources for mental illness and mental health. Certainly nonprofit organizations and churches, and working with our youth and youth offenders, making sure that we provide a roadmap for our young people, a diversion from doing terrible things that end up impacting their lives and the lives of many members of the community. So youth diversion programs, alternatives to violence programs that we have, all these programs and services the city currently, as well as our county partners, have always had. It's just the proliferation of the guns in our community, the high visibility of what's happening. Yesterday was high visibility, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, multiple locations. It shocks the conscience, and then everyone, rightly so, is upset, disturbed, and points back that somehow Charlotte is not safe. So we have to work towards that, and unfortunately, there's no microwave solutions. You can't put crime in a microwave and push a minute and we resolve it. It's going to take the stamina of a marathon runner, all of us leaning in, city, county, state, nonprofits, churches, to provide common sense solutions to a wide variety of problems that are really, really hard.
Yeah, do we talk about, there's so many aspects to it, like you mentioned, and is it something that we chip away at the same time, simultaneously? Is it sense of putting the right sources towards one thing first, like paying it down? What's the approach?
I think it's a team effort. Like I said, I think that we have to do multiple things simultaneously, right? We have to continue to have conversations with our state legislators and those in the General Assembly, many of whom, have a different political affiliation, but being a Democrat or a Republican should not matter. What matters is, do we have a responsible approach to providing solutions for crime in our community? How do we work with those who provide mental health services within our community? Do they have the adequate resources to do their job effectively and efficiently? Do we have enough police officers on the street, right? And certainly that falls within the jurisdiction of the city of Charlotte in terms of making sure that we have police officers, 911 operators, those who provide the type of response necessary to crime in our community, right? And so I can go on and on. So it's a team sport. It's all of those things have to be done simultaneously on different fronts, because there are different organizations, different government agencies that have different priorities and ownership of some of these issues. Again, the city of Charlotte has nothing to do with the magistrate's office at all, have no jurisdiction with that at all. We have no jurisdiction over mental health, although we do provide some resources to those agencies that does. We do lean in on the unhoused population in terms of housing, but no direct jurisdictional control over mental health. And so all of us have to provide the services that we own and lean forward in a collaborated, coordinated fashion.
Absolutely. Your residents, what are they asking of you, and what are they telling you after, certainly yesterday, but certainly in the past 60-plus days now?
Well, everyone's just a little bit uneasy. There's a sense of uneasiness in our community. Now, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the days are going by so quick now, the CMPD released their crime report and demonstrated that all the stats were moving in the right direction, whether it was violent crime, property crime, overall crime, all down. People really don't feel that at all, right? A week after that, there was 4 shootings within 48 hours.
Right.
A 3-year-old was injured. We had the incident that occurred yesterday. And so there's this sense of uneasiness, whether it's in uptown, whether it's on our corridors of opportunities, whether it's Beatty'sford Road or I-85 in Sugar Creek, Reagan Drive, whether it's Milton Road, and off the plaza. Everyone throughout this community feels that something different is happening, that there's a sense of individuals losing control. And again, part of what we also have to do, and the community doesn't do it because they just see the news report every morning. Yeah. Most of these aren't like the young lady that was killed on the transit station, right? That was unfortunate. There she is minding her own business, and she's attacked and killed. Or, again, we don't know what happened yesterday, but certainly someone was in their own home, minding their business, and all of a sudden they're caught up in a car chase with CMPD, no fault of their own. Those are isolated incidents, for sure. Yeah. Most of the crime are done by people that know one another, right? So it's not targeted to a stranger. And so when something like this happens yesterday, where someone is pulled into this, or the young lady that was on the transit where she was coming home from work and was just killed, it shocks the conscience. It raised everyone's antennas that somehow we have to rally around a comprehensive approach to solving what is a real issue of crime in our community. Can't back away from it.
Exactly. What do you feel is your assessment of CMPD's response? Chief Jennings said that they saved lives by responding and locating the suspect as quickly as they did. Do they perform well?
They do. So this is really not about what CMPD is not doing. They have always done a tremendous job in protecting and serving the community, whether it's in Uptown Charlotte or on Beatty'sford Road or West Boulevard or Ballantyne, University City. Throughout the district, throughout the city, the men and women who wear the uniforms perform at a very, very high level. They respond to crime, right? In many cases, they try to prevent the crime before it occurs. And yesterday, their response, how they handle that situation based on what I've read and what I was briefed on, should be highlighted as how we want our officers to respond in a crisis. Unfortunately, when violence is used by police officers, that has to be reviewed. But I think upon review, and again, based on the information that I know and have been briefed on, I think they deserve high remarks for the service that they rendered on yesterday.
What message do you have for Charlotteans who witnessed this particular incident, because there were so many scenes involved, or perhaps shaken by what happened in their neighborhood, and those involved with who might be family members of the officers involved with this?
Well, I think for the community at large, first, I think each and every citizen in our community must really, when they're involved in disagreements, arguments, have to de-escalate quickly, right? Mm-hmm. Find some self-control, put the guns down, and don't pull the trigger. That seems to be the default position by so many others in this community, by just pulling a gun and shooting and asking questions later. And so there has to be some restraint from members of the community. Secondly, those members of the community who are impacted by crime, who saw what happened yesterday, know that our city, and I only can speak for me as the district representative and someone who serves on the public safety task force for Uptown Charlotte, who's been really leaning in on public safety issues well beyond the latest episodes before the killing on the transit, that we have to, and we will continue to do, policing our community a lot more assertively, not aggressively, but really being a lot more assertive in addressing crime, even minor crimes. It's like the broken window syndrome, right? If you don't fix the broken window, then something else happens, right? So we have to be a lot more assertive in addressing crimes and how we police our community. And we hope that our citizens will cooperate and with our police officers when approach, and give them the respect that they deserve. And lastly, that we will, our commitment, and public safety is the city's top priority, that we will continue to police our community, that we will continue to work to ensure that if you're a mother walking your kid in Uptown Charlotte, that you should be safe. If you live on any of our corridors of opportunities, that you should be safe. If you're a visitor living in our hotels, whether you're in a hotel in South Park, University City, and Uptown, that you're safe. If you're coming to a Panthers game this weekend, we have a big game. Over 60,000 folks will be coming to see the Panthers and the Bills play. A huge game for us. Yep. That you feel safe coming to the game in a mass crowd like that. And so a wide variety of efforts, seen and unseen, are being made to ensure that public safety is at the foremost of everything that we do, all major events. Certainly what we're doing on our transit system. Additional police officers there, private police there as well, the transit station itself, buses, streetcars, and so the awareness throughout the city is very, very high. Unfortunately, we can't have a police on every corner, and even when we do, like some instances in Uptown where there's a police officer right there, shootings still occur, and so it's growing pains as a community, pains that we don't want. But I think if you wake up and watch the news in Austin, Texas, or Nashville, Tennessee, or Atlanta, Georgia, or Washington, D.C., some of the common themes are there in terms of how their cities are dealing with their crime issues. However, this is Charlotte, and we are accustomed to this, and we have to ensure that everyone feels safe and secure no matter where they live, work, or play.
I think that's well said. And the growing pains of Charlotte, indeed. As we feel that, Councilmember Malcolm Graham wants you to feel safe. It sounds like, you're doing what you can do. CMPD is out there. We have a lot of events in the Queen City putting really a focus and spotlight on this great city of ours. And I think that with that in mind, we appreciate you coming in and addressing certainly after yesterday.
And then lastly, to all the citizens, if you see something, say something.
There you go. Right.
That again, public safety is a team sport, and in neighborhoods, communities, in the malls, if you see something, say something, call 911. That's what they're there for, and they will respond accordingly.
Yeah, it starts small if you feel like you can't make a little difference, but you can. And oh, by the way, have you talked to the woman who was kidnapped? Any word on her condition or her?
Still too early, right? So we're waiting to get more information from CMPD. My thoughts and prayers obviously are with her, and again, we don't know the circumstances behind what happened there, so more information to come.
All right. Councilmember Malcolm Graham from District 2 coming in to talk to us about yesterday's officer-involved shooting, spanning a couple of scenes there from Hoskins Road out to the crash on Berkshire and Freedom Drive. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, some really interesting insight from Councilmember Malcolm Graham, who represents the district where all that happened. We're going to get updates on that at 5 and 6 from our Jesse Pierre, who's at the scene now talking to family and getting information as much as we can from investigators. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. get out to a story that has been really making a lot of national headlines out of New York City. Of course, the mayoral race has been a really, really big deal, not just with the debates, but with all the conversations surrounding it, particularly between Cuomo and the Republican candidate, and also Zoran Mondani, who is really leading the pack by far at this point. Now, there's been a lot of headlines recently, especially with accusations and just a lot of name calling getting thrown around. So he spoke earlier today, and that is what we have for you next.
That it is in those shadows that we must leave our faith. These are lessons that so many Muslim New Yorkers have been taught again and again. And over these last few days, these lessons have become the closing messages of Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, and Eric Adams. Yesterday, Andrew Cuomo laughed and agreed when a radio host said that I would cheer another 9/11. Yesterday, Eric Adams said that we can't let our city become Europe. He compared me to violent extremists. And he lied again and again when he said that our movement seeks to burn churches and destroy communities. The day before that, Curtis Sliwa slandered me from the debate stage when he claimed that I support global jihad. And every day, Super PAC ads imply that I am a terrorist or mock the way I eat. Push polls that ask New Yorkers questions like whether they support invented proposals to make halal food mandatory, or political cartoons that represent my candidacy as an airplane hurtling towards the World Trade Center. But I do not want to use this moment to speak to them any further. I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to speak to the Muslim who works for our city. Whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for the NYPD. New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifices for the city they call home, only to see their leaders spit in their face. I want to speak to every child who grows up here, marked as the other, who is randomly selected in a way that never quite feels random, who feels that they carry a stain that can never be cleaned. Growing up in the shadow of 9/11, I have known what it means to live with an undercurrent of suspicion in this city. I will always remember the disdain that I faced, the way that my name could immediately become Muhammad, and how I could return to my city only to be asked in a double-mirrored room at the airport if I had any plan on attacking it. And since I was very young, I've also known that I was spared the worst of it. I was never pressured to be an informant, like a classmate of mine. I've never had the word terrorist spray painted on my garage as one of my staff had to endure. My mosque has never been set on fire. To be Muslim in New York is to expect indignity. But indignity does not make us distinct. There are many New Yorkers who face it. It is the tolerance of that indignity that does. Since I announced my candidacy for mayor 1 year ago yesterday, I have sought to be the candidate fighting for every single New Yorker, not simply the Muslim candidate. I've carried these indignities with me each moment of this race, doing so all the while as the first major Muslim candidate in the history of our city. I thought that if I could build a campaign of universality, I could define myself as the leader I aspire to be, one representing every New Yorker, no matter their skin color or religion, no matter where they were born. I thought that if I worked hard enough, it would allow me to be that leader. And I thought that if I behaved well enough, or bit my tongue enough in the face of racist, baseless attacks, all while returning back to my central message, it would allow me to be more than just my faith. I was wrong. No amount of redirection is ever enough. In doing this, I have told the wide-eyed young child in Jackson Heights or the first-time voter in Parkchester that they too should remain in the shadows. In many ways, I have become that same uncle who pulled me aside 6 years ago. No more. The dream of every Muslim is simply be treated the same as any other New Yorker. And yet for too long, we have been told to ask for less than that and to be satisfied with whatever little we receive. No more. For as long as we have lived, we have known that no matter what anyone says, there are still certain forms of hate that are acceptable in this city. Islamophobia is not seen as inexcusable. One can incite violence against our mosques and know that condemnation will never come. Elected officials in this city can sell T-shirts calling for my deportation without any fear of accountability. The consequences amidst this inaction are stark. More than 1 million Muslims in this city existing all while being made to feel as if we are guests in our own home. No more. We stand on the precipice of an election, but that is not what today is about. We know that in less than 2 weeks we will say goodbye to a disgraced former governor and our current indicted mayor. The bigger question is whether we are willing to say goodbye to something much larger than either of these two men. It is whether we are willing to say goodbye to anti-Muslim sentiment that has grown so endemic in our city that when we hear it, we know not whether the words were spoken by a Republican or a Democrat. We know only that it was spoken in the language of politics of this city. In an era of ever-diminishing bipartisanship, it seems that Islamophobia has emerged as one of the few areas of agreement. And while I appreciate all who have rushed to my defense over these past few days, I think of those Muslims in this city who do not have the luxury of being the Democratic nominee, who do not have the luxury of being deemed worthy of solidarity. While my opponents in this race have brought hatred to the forefront, this is just a glimpse of what so many have to endure every day across this city. And while it would be easy for us to say that this is not who we are as a city, we know the truth. This is who we have allowed ourselves to become. And a question lies before each of us. Will we continue to accept a narrow definition of what it means to be a New Yorker that makes smaller every day the number of those guaranteed a life of dignity? Will we remain in the shadows, or will we together step into the light? There are 12 days remaining until Election Day. I will be a Muslim man in New York City each of those 12 days and every day that follows after that. I will not change who I am, how I eat, or the faith that I am proud to call my own. But there is one thing that I will change. I will no longer look for myself in the shadows. I will find myself in the light. Thank you very much.
Cuomo apologize.
You were listening into New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. He is the Democratic candidate. Of course, he's still running against Cuomo as an independent and a Republican candidate, and that has gotten very heated between the three of them, particularly in some of those recent debates. We are going to get to another story that we've been watching around the country, which is Chicago and their officials, their mayor, kind of going back and forth between how ICE should be operating within the city. That has been a big push from the federal administration, from President Donald Trump, to have more, but there's obviously a lot of pushback with that as well. So here's that press conference, or at least part of it, from earlier today in Chicago.
Of America. So I thank my colleagues for helping us highlight what has taken place in Chicago so that we can make sure that it does not continue and does not take place in other cities throughout America. Thank you all again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Representative Davis. Now let me bring up to the podium House Democratic Caucus Chair, Representative Pete Aguilar from California.
Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal and Mayor Johnson and commissioners and President Preckwinkle and my colleagues as well. Democrats are laser focused on ensuring everyone in our communities feels safe and secure from crime. But Donald Trump and his Republican henchmen, time and time again, have been more focused on demonizing the entire immigrant community rather than working on bipartisan solutions to improve public safety. From day one, we saw how unserious Donald Trump was when he pardoned 1,500 January 6th rioters from prison, many of whom were violent criminals, pedophiles, and domestic abusers. One of those charged even committed this week, threatened the life of Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. This shows the Trump administration's backwards priorities, pardoning violent criminals and going after people whose only crime is that they may be undocumented. Instead of targeting criminals, President Trump is unleashing agents across this country and disappearing people off the streets without due process. In many cases, detaining U.S. citizens and law-abiding immigrants with no criminal history. In my community of San Bernardino, California, a masked immigration agent opened fire on an unarmed vehicle in the middle of a residential neighborhood. The person was so scared for their life, they called the local police department to ask for help. This failed approach to so-called immigration enforcement is not only wrong, but it's un-American. And it's dangerous because actual criminals can slip through the cracks while innocent people are punished. By targeting people on how they look and the language they speak, the Trump administration is causing chaos, inciting protests, and making it harder for law enforcement to do their jobs. This isn't about law and order, it's about cruelty and chaos.
That's right.
Let's not forget, Donald Trump and Republicans have actually cut funding for law enforcement and public safety, not made it stronger. Democrats will continue to stand up and speak out against these cruel and dangerous actions and work tirelessly on ways that actually keep Americans safe. Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Representative Aguilar. Now let me bring up my good friend and colleague, Representative Robin Kelly.
Thank you, Congresswoman Jayapal, for everything that you're doing. You deserve so much credit. And thank you to Mayor Johnson, and thank you to Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle for hosting us, and all of my colleagues, as you have heard, from New York to California. I want to thank all the witnesses who came forward and all the people that are coming forward. One of my constituents, Genesis, shared the story of her mom, Laura Murillo, who was arrested and detained by ICE while she was working. President Trump and Secretary Kristi Noem are spreading racist lies that immigrants are lazy and don't work. Well, guess what? They arrested her while she was working. We don't know why she was detained, but if Laura is deported to her home country, she has every reason to fear that she will be killed. Her son and her son's father were killed after being deported. I am demanding answers on behalf of Genesis and her family so they can be united with her mom. ICE is simply tearing families apart. Secretary Kristi Noem should be ashamed of herself for parading in front of cameras and treating ICE raids like a game show. That shows her ignorance and her incompetence. Federal agents invaded my district, the 2nd District, deployed drones and helicopters and used flashbang grenades to burst through an apartment building in the South Shore. In the 2nd District again, federal agents caused a dangerous car crash and then shot pepper balls and tear gas into a crowd of people. And the 2 people injured in the car crash work for Genesis' mother. ICE Gestapo tactics hurt everyone, whether you're an immigrant or not. It hurts our democracy and traumatizes our neighborhoods. Only a weak and dictator wannabe president needs to send troops to bully only Democratic cities and their residents. Democrats won't stay silent, and we will not give in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Kelly, and I hope everyone watches Genesis's very, very powerful testimony at the field hearing. It's really remarkable. that we are in this situation where we hear stories like this. Let me bring up to the podium Representative Adriano Espaillat from New York, who is also the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus.
Good afternoon, Chicago. Good afternoon. I bring you greetings from New York, from Harlem, from Washington Heights in the Bronx. This is yet another troubling day. What we witness here, the testimonies that we've heard. Masked agents, anonymous. Imagine if anybody comes to your home and knocks on your door without a first name or a last name or a shield number. You won't open up. You shouldn't open up. At the same time, sensitive locations like houses of worship are now subject to raids. We have little access to the detention centers, although the law guarantees us as duly elected members of Congress access to those centers. Tear gas, toxic fumes have been thrown even at members of our caucus, of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Senator Alex Padilla, a sitting member of the Senate for California, thrown on the ground. This is the state of affairs, the deployment of the National Guard, the weaponization of the Justice Department against the opponents of this wannabe dictator. These are all the characteristics of a dictatorship. America is not exempt from having a dictatorship. We have to fight back to preserve democracy. And we're here today as a step that shows that as a community, Chicago is fighting back, and Congress, the Democratic Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, we're fighting back. And we will continue to fight back and go to each and every one of the cities across the country where this is occurring, including New York, where you had a raid on Canal Street just yesterday. Estamos aquí para apoyar a Chicago. Entendemos que somos solidarios con Chicago, que no debe suceder aquí lo que también está sucediendo en otras ciudades. Vamos a objetar la agresión de Donald Trump y vamos a objetar la agresión de ICE. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Our last speaker today was a powerful witness at our shadow hearing and has been on the front lines, both affected himself, shot by rubber bullets while he was praying at a detention center, and also deeply embedded in the community, Senior Pastor David Black.
I stand before you today in service to the God of Abraham and Hagar, of Isaac and Ishmael, Father of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. To God alone be all the glory, honor, and praise. Amen. I ought to be standing before you today in sackcloth and ashes because of the desolating sacrilege which is being perpetrated across this land in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Let us be clear that Jesus Christ is wherever Jesus of Little Village is, as he suffers the effects of tear gas, as he suffers the tyranny and the terror of being abducted by federal agents who are anonymous and being held to no account. There are many who have characterized my acts and the acts of other protesters as acts of resistance. They're wrong. I am a pastor. I'm not a political activist. And I've gone to the ICE Broadview facility many times to pray and evangelize and call ICE agents to repentance. I want them to remember that when this administration is gone, and it will be gone, they will not be protected by those who use them to
All right, looks like our feed there has ended, so we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back shortly. All right, so just past 3:30 here in the Live Impact studio. Something we've been paying attention to a lot, of course, is the government shutdown. We're on day 24, and that means officially those federal workers who get direct deposits will not receive their paycheck. So we've been following this kind of preemptively as we've seen these food pantry lines, food bank lines get long across the country. But this is really where we kind of transition into that impact really being concrete. So our Jane Monreal spoke with an expert earlier today, Mark Henry. So here's that interview.
Today marking now the 24th day of the federal government shutdown, leaving hundreds of thousands of federal workers without paychecks. They're scrambling, trying to make ends meet. For many families, that financial strain is real. Those mounting bills are coming due, and savings are dwindling. So joining us here live in the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus, Mark Henry with Alloy Wealth Management to discuss what affected workers can do right now. Mark, thank you again for coming in on short notice here, but this is a huge story, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Give us the latest on where things stand now with the shutdown and what federal workers are facing.
Well, unfortunately, the shutdown's definitely going to extend to next week. It's going to go at least that long. The Senate's already left town. They're home.
Right.
So that's not happening. It was close yesterday. It looked like they had an attempt to try to get federal workers paid, and Democrats blocked it. 3 crossed the aisle to help join the proposal to start getting paychecks flowing to federal workers that do come in. But 3 wasn't enough.
They needed 6, yes.
Right, they needed 6. But it got closer.
Right,
so that is
right.
the good news. Let's go with good news.
Sure.
We needed a few more, but it got close. So that would have ensured that federal workers continue to get the work through the shutdown, keep receiving a paycheck. So bottom line is we've got a problem, and there's a lot of these workers that are really hurting right now.
Yeah. When that first paycheck doesn't arrive, definitely scary. Now we're into 4 weeks of it not happening. And now people are worried about things like their credit scores, in addition to actually paying their bills. They should worry.
Right, they should. And so we have to take proactive, we have to not reactive, proactive.
Proactive.
It's time, if your emergency fund, and that's what you have it for, if you have one, this is when you use it. Let's not get behind on the bills. Now, if you don't have one, and again, one said that they would have trouble, 37% said they would have trouble covering a $400 emergency. That's like, this is bad. So we have to really go, what are we going to do? Okay, so if that is you, all right, we're in a place we don't want to be. We're not getting a paycheck, no fault of yours, but it's time to do something about it. We got to pick up the phone. So there are programs available. Many of the lenders, if you call them right now, you're not late, maybe you're late, going to be late, the first is coming and you're going to be late, let's tell them we can't pay. I'm a furloughed worker, here's where I work, here's my job, I cannot pay you because I have no paycheck. And I may not get the paycheck in time.
Okay.
And let's tell them up front. Right. And they're going to help you. These lenders do not want to ruin your credit. I believe that in my heart. And they want to help you through this. Now, I'm talking about home loans. I'm talking about car loans. They will do things like we'll skip a payment. We'll give you a payment holiday. I was literally in a credit union yesterday that had signs up that said, if you are a furloughed worker, talk to us today about skipping a payment holiday.
Oh, that's great.
Right?
Encouraging news. I didn't know that.
Right.
So those are a couple of things you can do right now while we wait.
That's
okay.
Right.
And then let's talk about the emergency funds. So ideally, we want 6 months in there.
Right, we really do. And this is an example why. But many people right now, and if you're listening and hearing this and you're like, well, I don't have that. Okay, maybe you're not a furloughed worker, but that doesn't mean you might get furloughed at your company or cut loose. You have to have this emergency fund. It's why it's so important. But now many credit unions and some local banks are offering low or no interest bridge loans for furloughed workers. They're saying, look, come in, we'll give you a very low interest loan to help you get some money bridge until you get your paycheck.
Gotcha.
What I'd be very wary of is payday lenders. These lenders that you go into and say, I didn't get my check, okay, we'll give you some cash, and when you get paid, you pay us. But unfortunately, the interest on those loans is going to be astronomical. They're hard money lenders, and they can just give you the money right now, but they're going to charge you the most legally allowed.
Okay, which is
It's going to be out of sight. It's not going to be worth it.
not worth
You
it.
got to go to your credit unions and your banks.
Okay.
Now, where else can we go? Well, so we've wiped out our emergency fund, or we didn't have one. We've tried the furlough with the loans. That's not working. We've called the lenders. We're delaying what we can, but we still need money.
We still
Okay,
need money,
so
right.
last resorts, 401k potentially. We have to look at the tax impacts, but let me be very clear. I will pay taxes at some point in my future. I can get cash today. Sometimes that's going to be the only option. It's like you've reached this place in the road through no fault of your own. You got 3 decisions, they're all bad. Well, I'm going to go with the tax one, and I'll worry about taxes in the future. I would talk to a professional about it before I did it, but I would have to, if it's a matter of eating or not eating.
Sure.
A matter of keeping my credit score. Your credit score is that important to me.
Wow. Okay. And when paychecks do resume,
Yes.
what is the first financial move federal workers should do to avoid being in this position again?
Right. Well, obviously, we're going to use the paychecks that come in because you are going to get them, and I believe that in my heart is going to happen soon. I really believe that. We've got to get the parties to agree at least on something, and let's get money coming in.
Right.
Okay, so we get the government open. Now what do? We pay the bills? Great. Now what? It's going to happen again at some point in your life.
Oh.
It will. It's the truth. So this is why we learn from what just happened to us, and we work on getting an emergency fund. And you might be thinking, well, Mark, you don't understand. I don't have enough money left at the end of the month. Well, that's a spending problem. I do understand because I've had them. And guess what? We got to cut the spending. Where's the money going? We've talked about it before, Jane, but where is it going? Let's get rid of all the things that are not necessary.
Like?
Well, all the stuff that automatically comes out of your account. The streaming services. We don't need them all. Pick one.
We don't, Carlene.
Pick one.
We don't need them
Pick
all.
one. Let's shop. Let's pick one. Gym memberships. Remember, there was a day in my life I had 3 and I didn't use any of them.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, come on. Let's get rid of everything that can come out. That's the easy win.
That's easy, okay.
Now let's go to the next ones. And for some people, it may be that, yes, we still have a budget problem or a spending problem where we can't get it any lower, and that means we're going to have to take on a second job. We got to do whatever it takes to get this emergency fund fully funded so we never have to go through this again.
Okay. And we're talking 6 months of
Yes.
emergency funds, of being able to pay your bills, including your rent, your mortgage,
Everything.
your car. Okay? For someone watching right now who's really stressed about money, besides the emergency fund, what do you want them to remember?
They can do this. They're not special, and I hate to say it that way, but they're not special. Millions of people have found themselves in this exact same position, and they got out. There's so many places with allowed budgeting, groups that are online, Facebook groups, and we talk about social media sometimes as being such a bad thing. There's ways it's a great thing. Get in one of these groups with other people trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish with.
Yeah.
Meet with them every Wednesday night on Facebook or on YouTube or some group setting, a Zoom, where you're helping encourage others and they're encouraging you to make the right decisions and get yourself out of debt. When you have this 6-month emergency fund, you won't believe how good it feels. When you finally see your debt going down, I literally talked to a young person the other day that is 30 years old, been out of school over 6 years and made the last payment on his student loan, and he said he just feels free for
Fantastic.
the first time
that's got to be a great
in
feeling.
his life.
Oh, I dream of that day.
Right, he just feels free.
Carlene's trying to pay her.
It's free.
Yes, I'm still trying to pay it out. I dream of the day.
Oh, it is great. I remember.
Right.
Yeah, I had to
And so
defer for a couple
he has
of years.
that feeling, and you can have that as well that's listening. But you didn't get into this overnight, and you're not going to get out overnight.
Right, right.
But get some people around you to encourage you to get this done.
All right. You can do it. You can do it, Carlene. You're able to pay off that loan.
I know.
One day.
It does
Chip
feel
away.
like a mountain. It does feel like a mountain of just student loan debt.
Sometimes it does. All right. And, positive news to be taken from here. Again, we are getting closer to a vote, hopefully passing some kind of funding bill to get folks back on their feet again.
Yeah, it's just it's mind-boggling that our government can't just pay the workers.
Yeah. Right.
Forget the politics of it. we got to get people paid.
I'm throwing an audible here, Mark. Inflation, this is just breaking. Did you see this? That inflation hit 3% in September, reflecting stubborn price pressures.
Yeah.
What does that say to you? What should we know at home?
It's something we've already talked about, but remember, inflation, even at 3%, is way down from what it was. That's good news. 3% is higher than we want. That's bad news. But at the end of the day, you have to remember, prices are still extremely high. Just because inflation tumbled down a little bit or now went up a little bit, it doesn't change the prices. The prices now may go up a little bit, but they never went down. Just because inflation went down, the price didn't go down. So if you were struggling a year ago under the higher inflation than we have now, you're going to be struggling just as bad now or worse, because prices, when inflation goes down, prices don't go down. They just go up slower.
Okay.
That's the problem. Prices are just going up slower than they were. They were already extremely high. You can give a couple of crazy examples like fuel prices because we're producing more energy, or egg prices. Okay, other than those two, there's really not many others. You know, real estate market, I think we're in a balanced market right now. It's not a buyer's market. It's not really a seller's market. We didn't have a crash, but it's kind of just a lukewarm, there's not multiple offers on houses, but they're selling. People are buying, and it's kind of a balanced market. But price-wise, prices are high.
They're still high.
And inflation is a stubborn thing, and it's very sticky, and it's going to be around for a while.
All right. More reason why you need to get that 6-month emergency fund going. Mark Henry from Alloy Wealth, appreciate you as always, as we will continue to visit what matters, and it's where's the money, where's that money going, where's it coming from?
That's right.
We need it to live, unfortunately. All right, thanks a lot.
Definitely some important information there, and something we'll keep monitoring until we come to some sort of resolution with the budget bill at the federal level. We are going to get closer to home and go to another check of our forecast with Majestic Storm. Definitely a lot of things going on in Charlotte over the weekend, so definitely something we'll want to pay attention to.
We're getting spoiled for our Friday forecast. Sunny skies, very mild temperatures, but let me tell you, you're going to want to soak up the next couple of days because we have some big changes ahead. Current temperatures right now for that lunchtime forecast, we're still in the 40s up in the mountains, 50s out there in Shelby and Hickory, low 60s here in the Queen City. But you can see temperatures really are just very comfortable as a whole. Daytime highs today are going to be a little cooler than the last couple of days, planned for some 60s, but you know what? Still very mild conditions if you're taking the family and heading out to Scarowinds tonight. There's that forecast. Temperatures will start to dip down into the mid-50s as soon as 8 p.m., so grab those layers. You're going to want it. Now, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, honestly, not bad. 60s, a little bit more cloud coverage on Sunday, but I do still think that we're going to be dry. Early next week, we start to see some changes, especially on Monday, as another round of rain moves in. We've had an incredibly dry month of October. We've only had one day of measurable rain. Now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll have several rain showers moving in, several rounds of rain. So we are going to be weather impact alert on Monday, and then into Tuesday, because what we're watching will be a round of rain. Now, we think right now the biggest impacts will be on Monday with lingering impacts on Tuesday, but this is going to be wet rain. Temperatures are going to struggle, but we could accumulate 2 to 3 inches of rain by the time this is all said and done. So yes, enjoy the sunshine today, because by the time we're heading back to school, by the time we're heading back to work early next week, it's going to look a whole lot different. Just putting things into perspective, you can see this weekend, very mild fall conditions, but boy, next week, daytime highs only rising really into the 50s. This is how much rain we could see. Again, this is radar estimated, but we're seeing a pretty good agreement that really Monday and Tuesday, we're going to get a good round of rain, but bottom line, about 1 to 2, even 3 inches of rain will be possible. And this is going to be a dramatic change, especially after how dry everything has been throughout the month of October. Putting this into perspective even more, here's Monday at 3 o'clock. I think we'll actually get some rain Monday morning. And then here's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. That rain is still on the way. Here's my clock here. So 4 o'clock on Tuesday, we're seeing widespread rain all across the Carolinas at this point. Heading into Tuesday night and into Wednesday, that rain is still not done. And then There's a catch. Up in the high country, here's Thursday at 5 a.m. Not only rain showers, but you know what this pink means? It means we could see a little bit of a wintry mix of both rain and snow. Of course, for the higher elevations, we'll have to keep a close eye on that, but a lot of big changes heading our way. Again, rain chances will be highest on Monday, so we're going to be weather impact alert only for Monday. And then those rain chances, I mean, they're still there Monday and Tuesday, and we may have to extend that alert if we start to see those rain chances go up. But for now, Monday we have issued that, and it's just because it's a little bit of an inconvenience. No severe weather, no thunderstorms, nothing like that. Tropical storm Melissa, this is 11 a.m. advisory. It is moving incredibly slow, still only 2 miles per hour, making some big impacts across Jamaica this weekend. So far, we've had 12 named storms. Usually, we average 14 named storms by this time of the year. And so we'll continue to watch Melissa over the weekend as it is expected to intensify from a tropical storm into a Category 4 hurricane. Here's a quick peek at our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Sunny skies today and tomorrow. Sunday, more clouds start to move through, and then rainy weather is ahead.
All right, that was Majestic Storm with the forecast. Jeb, are we going to take a break, or are we going to head to? Okay, we're going to go to Nate Morbido. Nate, you've been doing this investigation now for a couple weeks on city funding being stopped to heal Charlotte due to some record-keeping issues. So, what have you found in that investigation?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk first of all, because you've done some reporting on this too. The city has kind of laid out some new requirements moving forward about its financial partners and some kind of benchmarks they need to be hitting to make sure they're, credible, essentially, right? And to make sure the money that they're giving these organizations is spent well, it's accounted for properly. Well, for the last several weeks, I've been looking into Heal Charlotte. Now, you'll remember more than a year ago, in April 2024, Heal Charlotte used more than $2 million in federal money to take over the old Baymont Inn Motel near Sugar Creek.
Yeah, that was a big point of contention.
Yes. So they got the motel. They housed a ton of people, some for free, some for subsidized amount. And after that, people were evicted in April this year, just to kind of set the table of what happened here. A couple months later, a new organization came in, run by Cedric Dean, now under federal investigation for alleged healthcare fraud, preying on the homeless, is what the warrant kind of suggests. And in between that gap, and really while it sounded like while Cedric Dean's organization was there managing it, a woman and her baby were found dead in the motel. You remember all this here?
Yeah. A lot of moving parts to this whole story. Yeah.
So I do want to just focus on Heal Charlotte, though, because in the months after Heal Charlotte's program ended, the city monitored the contract, kind of as normal oversight, because we're not just talking about money, as one council member told me, we are talking about people's lives. This money went to take people off the street and try to get them to permanent housing. Some apparently it did, others did not get a step up. And they found, number one, there were some missing files, including a couple of actual tenant files. There were some other missing required documents. There was no financial audit, which, you're trying to give yourself a clean bill of health for your organization. And the records that I have suggest that there were contractual and federal requirements to have that audit. So the city gave Heal Charlotte and its founder, Greg Jackson, a good amount of time to try and get this all resolved. October 1st, it hadn't been resolved. A letter went out to this organization and said, in the future, unless this changes, unless you address our concerns, you will not be getting any more money from us. A really significant stance to take. And I've asked the city, well, who else are you doing this to right now? Who else is ineligible to receive money? And they didn't give me a list of anyone. So we know that Heal Charlotte is trying to resolve most of the concerns. Greg Jackson, very well known in our community, has declined to talk with us on camera, but said he's been trying to be transparent with the city, and also has turned over all the financial documents he has to show that everything's been addressed and everything's accounted for, but he hasn't done the financial audit, which is the requirement. Now, he disputes there's any violation going on, but the truth is, according to the documents I've seen from the city, he had a contractual obligation and a federal obligation to complete this paperwork. This is federal money that was administered through the city. So right now we're in a situation where this organization that has done a lot of good in our community and is well known has been told by city leaders, by city officials, You cannot have any more taxpayer-funded money. And I don't know if you remembered at the meeting earlier this month, because you cover, obviously, the council.
Yeah.
Tijuana Brown,
Yep.
who has her own alleged issues right now, too, with the federal courts, raised concerns about Heal Charlotte and saying essentially they've been eliminated for a reason. Jeb, I don't know if you can pull up the actual web story, because that is now live if you want to look at it. It's super in-depth. You know, as part of our reporting, we talked to a tenant who lived at the Baymont Inn when it was under Heal Charlotte's management. We talked to Luana Mayfield, who's a council member, also on the budget committee, and had some concerns about, number one, organizations need to do their part. They need to come to the table because we need to be credible when we're spending our tax money. Number two, that needs to be better training too, so that these organizations that are receiving these kind of really high sums of money, kind of unprecedented for grassroots organizations in our city, can make sure they know what they're going to need to do on the front end. But these records also revealed, which was interesting to me, that the plan was to eventually, if all things went well, Heal Charlotte was going to buy that motel. That was the goal.
Interesting.
And for whatever reason, there was no additional funding that came from the community. This was one-time money from the city,
Yeah.
by way of the federal government. No additional money came from anybody in the community enough to sustain it. And then we saw what happened in the months after, and that's really why we're so focused on this issue, because 2 people were found dead at that motel.
Yeah.
A baby and a mother. And so we kind of asked Luana Mayfield, council member, the question of like, what can we do to make sure vulnerable people are not falling through the cracks? If you're giving money to organizations, there has to be something there to at least ensure these people can be supported to whatever's next. And that seemed to not happen in this case. Now, she doesn't think Heal Charlotte had anything to do with the deaths at all. She was very clear about that. But nonetheless, this is taxpayer money that went for a motel that was open for a year, then it closed, people got evicted, some people didn't leave, somebody else took it over, and apparently the people that maybe didn't leave, 2 of them passed away. And Greg Jackson has really said that we had nothing to do with that situation. And as I told you, Councilmember Mayfield said the same thing, that she doesn't think they have any real responsibility for what happened there. But nonetheless, when you are dealing with people and you are helping people who are already living on the fringes, one domino can lead to a severe outcome.
Yeah.
And I think in this respect, this whole situation's opened the city's eyes.
Yeah, if we're funding organizations that are specifically there to help vulnerable people, there has to be some oversight. And I know that they've made some changes this year, other than just not funding Heal Charlotte, to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But we're also dealing with the fact that we're out of ARPA funding. If I'm not mistaken, that's the funding that this was, the federal
American
COVID
Rescue
era
Plan
funding.
Act, yep. So now, will organizations get less money? I know that's something you've been looking into. You talked to the city about this particular issue, right?
Yeah, and we at this point don't know, is what they're saying. I talked to someone on, who puts together the budget plan that's presented to council, and that's when negotiations start. We're talking months out, by the way. This will go through in May, so we're still putting this together. At this point, they don't want to close things off. They're telling nonprofits, apply for these grants, the same type of grants that, Heal Charlotte received. We want to get these applications. The process will be different. They had mandatory, kind of information sessions to explain to people up front what will be required and enforced if you are to receive this funding. But at this point, they don't know how much money they're going to have. They don't foresee the program going away by any means, but we don't have the ARPA funding, and we don't know how uncertain anything else is going to be. We've got, just in general, the budget is in a questionable place because sales tax isn't generating as much as people expected it to. People are spending less in general right now. We've got federal uncertainty, state budget uncertainty. So this is all on top of, a greater level of nonprofits are really struggling right now. And so if we're going to be funding nonprofits with city money, federal money, taxpayer money, we need to make sure it's done properly.
You know, it's interesting too, because October 1st was when the applications opened for additional funding for the next year, and that's when this letter came out. I don't know if you remember, but probably a month or two ago, I did a story about the Mayor's Racial Equity Initiative and how much money had been unspent in that area. And what you have is you have nonprofits who are being asked to live up to the standard of oversight and accountability. And I think the message, at least from the one that I spoke to, separate of Heal Charlotte, when we did that story, was we need our government to be the same way.
Yeah.
To be transparent, to be accountable when it comes to their money. So there seems to be, to some degree, some growing pains. Obviously, you know, we're talking about pandemic funding. That was a different time.
Yes.
And evictions were, you know, we're much more concerned at that time about people running out of money, right? And so I think that there's all these lessons that they're learning right now that we hope will turn into something to make sure that organizations are prepared to spend the money the best they can, to account for every expense they have, and to make sure that their operation is strong and solid, to make sure that the city is keeping an eye on this throughout and after, and bridging any gap so that nobody falls through the cracks.
I know that you haven't gotten a chance to speak with Greg Jackson on camera.
Yeah.
Is there any step forward that you know of for Heal Charlotte after this?
I mean, they have to get a financial audit.
Yeah.
Unless the city comes back and says, you know what, that requirement we're going to let go in this case. I don't think they're going to do that. He told me, I'm going to try and get the audit. That is something that I'm going to do. It's going to cost a lot of money for an organization, so that's an added cost. But also, more than $2 million was received. So it's an agreement that was there from the start that this was something that would have to happen. That, to me, is the only way they're going to be able to remedy this. And I don't know that they're going to go back to the city and ask for any money.
Yeah.
I know that they haven't recently. I know that the county's not received any requests from them. I don't know what their funding plan is going to be moving forward, but it does seem to some degree like they're going to move away from the government route, because it can be burdensome for these organizations too. This is, in some ways, uncharted territory for them when you're getting that much money. So I just think that, like, we're talking about money and accounting and audits and a bunch of words that